Welcome back. I call this Pleasanton Unified School District Board meeting to order this August 8th, 2024. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Our brand new trustee will lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. We were at school today, and everyone did a fabulous job opening school. I'm so proud of everyone. Thank you for working behind the scenes to get us ready for the first day of school. So as is our custom, to begin our meetings with introductions. Mrs. Granwell, can you start us?
Yes, good evening. Namarta Graywell, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources.
Recording in progress.
Ahmad Shigil Islami, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services.
Good afternoon. Ed Dialazzo, Deputy Superintendent.
Good evening. Philippe Dimitriev, Student Board Trustee from Amador.
Good evening. Steve Maher, Trustee.
Good evening. Lori Walker, Trustee.
Good evening. Trustee Makashi.
Good evening. Justin Brown, Trustee and the Vice President for this year. Thank you.
Hello, Mary Jo Carrion. I'm serving as Board President this year.
Good evening. Dr. Maurice Geisels, your Interim Superintendent.
Good evening. Lenita Villasenor, Executive Assistant to Dr. Geisels.
Hey, everybody. Patrick Gannon, Director of Communication.
Okay, we have a lot to report out from closed session. On closed session item 2A, the board voted 5-0 with the motion made by Trustee Maher and seconded by Trustee Makashi to approve a compromise and release agreement for internal case number SCD 134-2324 for the amount not to exceed $13,000. On closed session item 2A, the board voted 5-0 with the motion made by Trustee Makashi and seconded by Trustee Walker to approve a compromise and release agreement for internal case SCD 137-2324 for the amount not to exceed $3,200. On closed session item 3, the board voted 5-0 with the motion made by Trustee Makashi and seconded by Trustee Maher to approve a compromise and release agreement for internal case number SCD 101-24-25 for the amount not to exceed $45,000. On closed session item B, the board voted unanimously 5-0, a motion by Trustee Walker and seconded by Trustee Maher to reject tort claim number 640376. And now we have a number of hires, and hopefully the person is here that we could talk. So the first one is in closed session, the board voted unanimously to approve an appointment of Christina Brown, principal at Donlin Elementary. Christina Brown, welcome.
Good evening. I want to thank Dr. Geisels and board member Mrs. Carrion, as well as the board and cabinet members for this opportunity. I'm very excited for this. I also want to thank some of my support system who is in the audience tonight. I want to thank the Donlin staff as well as community for their warm welcome. It's a great place to be, and I am learning that daily. And with that, I am excited for the school year and years to come, as well as continue the work that's already been set forth. So thank you for this opportunity. I'm very excited.
In closed session, the board voted unanimously to approve the appointment of Andrea Medrano, Vice Principal at Amador High School.
Good evening. Thank you all so very much for this opportunity. I am new to school administration, and I'm looking forward to using my years as a school counselor in my new role. And to serve the community of Pleasanton where I live, and that has served my son at Donlin very well. Thank you.
Thank you. In closed session, the board voted unanimously to approve an appointment of Malette Cardenas, Vice Principal at Valley View.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, and for everyone. I appreciate the appointment. I'm so excited to be part of Pleasanton Unified School District. My principal is over here to support me. I've received such warm welcome, and I'm looking forward to all the work we will do this school year. I'm happy to serve Pleasanton and Valley View in particular.
Last appointment in closed session, the board voted 4-1 with the appointment of Aurora Ashan with Trustee McCaughey with dissent. And are you here today? Oh, yes.
I want to thank the Board of Trustees and Executive Cabinet for giving this opportunity. I've had an incredibly fulfilling experience working with Pleasanton families for the last 8 years, and it was like a homecoming today, seeing all the families and kids that I've worked with in the past years at Walnut Grove. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Okay, we now move on to approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion for approval of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, so we're going to vote, but Philippe, what is your vote? You get a preferential vote first.
I vote on the little screen, right?
You just say what you want. If you're going to, there's a screen.
Correct, on the screen.
My screen does not function.
Is it not working?
It says NFC card message. The participant is not recognized.
Okay, then verbal.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else's? Oh.
Aye.
I think it's unanimous.
Such a contentious subject.
Okay, moving on to B, board question and answer. The board has a chance to read through the board packet and ask questions ahead of time. This is try to speed up the process. You can find the staff questions and answers on our district website. Okay, there are no recognitions today and no student representatives, correct? Okay, so we move on to associations. We have Association of Pleasanton Teachers. We have Evan Branning. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Evan Branning, and I'm the new APT president. I'm here because I believe that Pleasanton students deserve the best. I want to tell you a little bit about myself before I get started, since most of you know me, but maybe not too well. So the short version is I grew up in poverty, and public schools were my way out. It was teachers that were the ones who supported me and gave me the opportunity to succeed in life. But beyond that, for my entire life, I've been a union supporter. My family has come from a long line of union supporters, and we can trace our roots back to Samuel Gompers. So when I say I have union blood, I mean it. And so I'm here to stand in solidarity with all of my brothers and sisters and to make sure that we continue to build on the success we have. Last year, educators pushed for some historic raises to be able to be paid fairly for the work that they do, to get the health benefits that they deserve. This year, as we move forward, we want to ensure that we build upon the successes that we had. This means that we are going to work to make sure that we abide by the contract that we worked so hard for. That we're going to continue to build as a team to support each other and to make sure that we have at all levels the support that our educators deserve. We can continue to honor their work by reaching out, improving communication, and making sure that we honor them at every step of the way. Part of that is having school board partners that support our staff and our educators. As APT, we have endorsed a candidate, Charlie Jones, for school board. The reason we have endorsed him is because he stands by our ideals of supporting our staff, our educators, our teachers, and all of our students. What we ask now is that all of the board members join your staff in supporting Charlie Jones for school board, and for those of you who are running, to come, and if you stand for the same ideals, that you come to us at APT and ask for our endorsement. Please reach out to me if you are interested. We would love to talk to you about that support. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan, and welcome. Now we have Laura Martinez, California School Employees Association.
Good evening, Superintendent Geisel, President Carrion, members of the Board, trustees, cabinet, colleagues, and community members. As the president of Classified Union, I represent the dedicated staff who support our schools in countless ways in their vital roles. It is my responsibility to advocate for their interests, work collaboratively, and build relationships with leadership to ensure the district runs smoothly and for our students, staff, and the community. I am delighted to welcome everyone back to a new school year. My hope is we have all returned with renewed energy we've all returned with renewed energy and a collective commitment to make the school year exceptional. The anticipation and excitement of a new year are evident, and it's time filled with promise and possibilities. First, I want to extend my gratitude to our classified staff. Their hard work and dedication over the summer have been instrumental in preparing our schools to welcome students back. From maintenance to administrative support, technology, operations, and beyond, every task completed has set the stage for a successful year ahead. Recently, I had the privilege of attending the California School Employee Association annual conference, where the theme was Together We Thrive. This theme resonates deeply with our core values and all that we stand for. Our diversity is our strength, and like a kaleidoscope, we are ever changing. Through that change, we remain united and stronger. Each of our core values, empowerment, inclusivity, respect, transparency, and innovation, guides us in our daily efforts and interactions, which allow for forward thinking, encourages continuous improvement, and fosters the exploration of new ideas to enhance our educational path. Let's make this a year full of growth, collaboration, and success. We have a unique opportunity to motivate and inspire each other and our students, to create an environment where everyone feels supported and valued. By embracing these core values, we show our empowerment. We show that we are empowering each other, being inclusive, respecting one another, maintaining transparency, and fostering innovation where we can thrive. As we embark on this new school year, we must also acknowledge the challenges we face, particularly the potential budget cuts that could impact our district. These are not easy decisions, but I am confident in our collective ability to navigate them with thoughtfulness and care. By working together, we can find creative solutions that prioritize our students' needs while ensuring that our staff continues to feel supported and valued. Welcome back, everyone, to a new school year. Let's encourage each other, achieve great things, and build lasting connections along the way. Here's to a fantastic year.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, we move on to public comments from the community. Due to the Brown Act, we cannot act or discuss issues not on the posted agenda. Board members may briefly respond to statements or ask a question for clarification, make a brief report, reference staff, request staff to report back, or direct staff to place business on a future agenda. Are there any comments from the audience?
Yes, there is. President Carrion,
Okay.
We have Charlie Jones.
Okay.
All right. Hello and welcome back. My name is Charlie Jones, and this is probably one of my favorite times of year as an educator, because this is when we get to see our new students. We get to try out the new lessons that we've implemented and started experimenting with over the summer. But it's also the time where we get to see our colleagues again after not really seeing each other for a couple of months. So this is definitely one of my favorite times. So again, I just want to say welcome back to our staff. both from CSEA, our APT members, our parents and families as well. And I wanted to remind parents that the beginning of the year is a great time for you to also donate to our boosters and to our different clubs as well, because this is the time of year where they're really setting their budget and deciding what they want to spend, how they want to spend that. And so knowing up front what you have really helps. So if you're able to, I highly encourage you to donate to those boosters and those clubs. Me personally, I was in the Amador Valley Marching Band, so I will always support the Amador Valley Friends of Family and Music. But like I said, if you can, please do. These are the programs that help us afford the things and the opportunities that we want our students to have. Or if you'd like, you can directly donate to our school sites as well, which is another really cool way to support. I've been on site-based decision-making teams, and that general fund is huge for helping us in covering field trips or other necessary things that we might have. So as the school year starts, welcome back, and if you can, support our students in any way you're able to. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any other? Okay. Okay, we move on to superintendent's report.
Thank you. You think I would know that. Welcome aboard, Philippe. It's really a pleasure. Thank you for the tour of Amador today and coming in and talking with you and me, and it's just super happy to have you here. Go Dons.
Thank you. It was an honor.
All right. You know, I hit the ground running on July 1 and had the chance to observe 2 board meetings and do the discovery before then. And I think this is the end of my 5th week, and it seems like I've been here about 4 years, especially after most of us visited up to 9 schools today. I think we walked like 47,000 steps, Steve. So, you know, thank you. It was a great day. 9 schools, the rest tomorrow. You know, when I started out, I had a lot of background knowledge, but I knew I had a lot more to learn. And I still have a lot more to learn. I think the thing I'm so happy about knowing is most of the faces and names in the audience, so thank you. We started out quickly collaborating on what we're going to do this year, and we got the leadership team together and constructed the symposium, and we quickly collaborated on the theme for the year. And we realized that connecting with each other, building relationships, having cohesion, healing, and really looking at culture is what we needed to focus on. And we had one of the best leadership team symposiums that I have ever experienced. We really pulled it together. You have an incredible leadership team. I was just awe-inspired. And then that manifested to the Amador kickoff this week. And that seems like 3 weeks ago. But it was a blast, the drone, the cheerleading, the fun, great speech, President. Really good. You learned me something about using cards instead of this. And then the launch. The launch. Today we went around, as I said, to 9 schools. And, you know, I've been around the block. I've been to many, many districts as a teacher, as an administrator, as a superintendent, and as a consultant. So I kind of have a benchmark feeling for what to see, and I was really impressed. That's the headline. The readiness of the teachers, our kids. It's all about our kids, right? How happy they were, the parents were happy, how professional everyone was, and how engaged the kids were. And quite frankly, Mehdi, I know you're going to come up tonight, and so many people, tech I see, the list goes on and on, fiscal. It was extremely a great launch. And I think that's evidenced by, we did a really important debrief where everybody got in the room at 3 o'clock today. And I said 3 things. When you look at, of course there's praise, that's good. We praised, we caught people doing the right thing. There's no news, which is horrible news, because if people don't speak up, how can you get excited about addressing problems and identifying opportunities for improvement. And then people started talking about the issues, the defects, the problems, what's going on. And I have to tell you, I like to look at what I call the quality of complaints. And the quality of complaints were pretty good. There were things that went on. There were things like Sebastian was telling us about the problem with seating charts. I know we're going to be talking about synergy today. There was a big problem Tuesday night when schedules came out and the servers jammed, right? There was an issue of at Amador about a teacher not being able to get the Chromebooks together. And I'm telling you most of them right now. I complained that the curbs weren't painted at Al-Sol. But when you look at the quality of complaint and the frequency and intensity, I think it represents something that you should really feel good about, and that is systems are in place in the Pleasanton Unified School District. Opening school is not episodic. It's not like jamming for a final and going till the last night and you hope you get a good grade. It takes a lot of systems that are of quality, and that's what I saw today. And systems are predictable, outcomes that are predictable, everything from mowing lawns to getting paid to everything running on schedule. They're predictable, they're repeatable, and they're sustainable. And I just really, I didn't go to bed last night and worry because I just have so much confidence. But, you know, we can talk the talk about positive culture, about cohesion, about connectedness and relationship. I think you all walked the walk today. And I'm telling you, gauging it from all my experience, it was doggone good. So thank you. And if it wasn't, I'd tell you a different story. So what's ahead? 3 points, really, and you know this. It's worth repeating over and over. We do have fiscal challenges. We do have to go through reductions, and I'm looking forward to attending the first Budget Advisory Committee meeting on Tuesday, Ahmad, at 5 o'clock. Looking forward to that. You're going to be hearing a lot more about that. We're really developing what I would consider a robust communication plan. The second reason I want to be here is because you have to be set up for the best superintendent that you deserve. You deserve. And you know, I said at Amador at the All Hands the other day is that we got to come together because, and I know Alicia and Jim later are going to be talking about this, we got to come together because we want a superintendent, we want them to look at us like that's the go-to district. That's the board that's doing well, and you are. That's the leadership team that's great. That's the systems that are in place, and so on and so forth. That's really important. Our reputation. Pleasanton brand is outstanding, and my job is to make it stronger and its reputation so you get the person you want. Superintendents make a difference. There's a lot of research on it in terms of making a district. And finally, I've talked about this before, it's about the momentum of demonstrating to each other professional relationships, cohesion, connection, listening, and communication, and a good dose of authenticity in there too. So that's my report. I stand by it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we move on to consent agenda. Items in the consent agenda are usually routine in nature and can be grouped together and approved in one action. Items can be pulled by a trustee for clarification or discussion prior to the vote. Are there any items to be pulled?
I'd like to pull a L.
Anybody else? Okay, can I have a motion for the rest?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda except for L.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Okay, Philippe, are you able to vote?
No.
Okay, can you verbally?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, the motion passes 6-0. Okay, Trustee McCaughey, L. Patrick? Thank you.
I apologize. I think I pulled the wrong item. I'm looking for the item for approving the district office. What?
Yeah, that's
That is item L.
It is. Oh, okay. Sorry. I don't know why it's headed really kind of funny. Okay. All right. So just a quick question, a couple questions. What was the timeline originally for approving the DO project of getting the completion? Were we on track, or I just wanted clarification on were there some delays? What was the timeline?
So if you recall, we moved into the facility last August, and then between the move-in, there was work was completed in about 2 months in this general area, and then it's very normal for a project to be substantially complete, but you file the notice of completion once all the punch list items are taken care of, any other issues are resolved, and then that's when you file the notice of completion. And so we've reached that milestone. There's going to be no more change orders. The project is complete, and now that's why we're bringing it over. That then triggers certain timelines in release of retention dollars, so on and so forth.
So for the benefit of the public, was it pretty much on schedule, or do we have any specific delays that delayed the process? Because I know there were a couple change order and requests for additional funding on some projects. So can you just recap that for the benefit of the public?
So, I have to go, I don't have all the information in front of me, but my recollection is we originally wanted to move in a little bit earlier in the summer. And then we did push that back to August. There was various change orders that we ran into, and it's inclusive in what the board has already approved. And that substantially, again, we moved in August. The boardroom was available to us, I believe. I can't remember if it was November board meeting was one of our first board meetings in there. So again, there is no cost to any of those changes in schedule in terms of for the contractor. They were able to work with us with what they needed to do. So I hope that answers the question.
Just to re-clarify, what capacity is the facility being maximized? Do we have any particular space that's not being utilized at this time, and if so, why?
Correct. So there is a phase 2 to the project that the board approved. The entire facility that the district occupies is around, I believe, 60,000 square foot. And Aaron, if I'm not, maybe you can get about 20,000 square foot is under for phase 2 for further development. And that will allow the adult education program to be relocated to this facility.
So thank you for that clarification, and I know that this is just for this particular agenda item, the approval for this completion. But as a follow-up, I would like to have some additional information in regards to the timeline for that, additional costs, as well as if there's any unmaximized space, what the plan is for unutilized space. So thank you. With that, I'll make a motion to approve L if there's no other questions.
Do I have a second?
Actually, I'm going to ask a question since it was prompted, if you don't mind. Did we end up repurposing the area that was going to be for the printing? Or is that still held in reserve?
The area for printing, the basic improvements were made, and we haven't yet determined if we're going to bring over the graphics to it or if the graphics will stay with the warehouse once we relocate that. So that option is still there if we do choose so. That space was completed as part of the project.
Okay, Thank you. That's all my questions. And if there's no one else, I'll second the motion.
Okay, for approval, you can vote.
I vote yes.
Thank you. Okay, the motion passes 6-0. Okay, now we move on to report, discussion, and action items. A, report, discussion, operations, department annual review. You got
Great. I'm going to, before Mr. Rajabzadeh begins his presentation, I wanted to thank each and every member of our operations team, and that's our custodial, our maintenance, our warehouse, our transportation, and everyone was really doing a great job this summer, ensuring that everything is ready for the schools. And that was through the leadership of Mr. Rajabzadeh, Arlie, and Juan. I think the team is really performing well, and we're excited to hear the report for the 23-24 fiscal year. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Rajabzadeh.
Hello. Good evening. Good evening, Pleasanton Unified Board of Trustees, Superintendent Dr. Geisels, the Cabinet, leadership, students, staff, and the community. I'm pleased to present my 5th annual report of the achievements of the operations team. Team department consisting of about 90 professionals in 5 departments: maintenance, grounds, custodial, warehouse, and transportation. The operations department has 2 main funding resources: unrestricted for $11 million and routine restricted for about $7 million, for a total of $18 million. About $8.6 million of the combined resources is used to fund salaries and benefits, $5.5 million for utilities, $2.7 million for repair and professional services, which includes all the projects that we do and the contract and those contracts that we issue. $920K for materials and supplies, and about $200K, $82K for capital outlays. In 2023-2024, various operations department teams completed over 5,000 work orders and a numerous variety of projects, from hanging banners, pulling electrical connections, special painting projects, classroom renovations, plumbing, special delivery and pickup, and many grounds activities in daily and weekend overtime. Some of our major projects included resurfacing tennis courts at Amador Valley and Foothill, refilling the field turf at Foothill, a completely new scoreboard at Foothill, and upgrading the baseball area, installing marquees at Amador Valley and Foothill, renovating stadium planter boxes, removing over 70 tons of dirt from Foothill Creek after last year's landslide, purchasing a truck for child nutrition services, and acquiring 2 new buses for transportation department. Our sample projects included a Gaga pit at Vintage Hills, tripping hazards removal throughout various sites, including concrete joints at Harvest Park, recycling hundreds of buckets of paint, installing safety lights at Fairlands, repairing basketball hoops repeatedly, and installing an awning at Amador Valley Activity Center. In 23-24, we also had a great opportunity to repair and renovate several blacktops and parking lots: Walnut Grove parking lot, Harvest Park pathway, and Donlan parking lots. Last year, with the oversight of the facilities department, we painted Walnut Grove. The final school to be painted is Fairlands, and it will be painted with the TK projects. Last year, we also faced several challenges that consumed a lot of time and energy from the operations team. We had some major plumbing issues at a variety of sites, notably Foothill High School, where we found significant damage to underground pipes and a fire at Amador Valley High School, a small gym. And these are the basketballs that we found in the ducts of the small gym. This is actually one single duct. Other challenging issues have been rising prices and a shortage of suppliers to address maintenance issues in a timely manner. Many irrigation issues, which are the result of aging irrigation pipelines, took away sizable opportunities from operations to address regular grounds work. In grounds and tree services, we continued with trimming the trees at all sites. We made significant improvements to the front and inside of Moore Elementary, front and inside at Donlan, front and inside at Amador Valley, front of Walnut Grove, inside Vintage Hills, and inside Harvest Park. Our team spent numerous hours on weekends and overtime to help and clean the sites. Remove weeds, repair broken pipes, adjust sprinklers, and prepare the sites for games. Up to the end of the 2023-2024 school year, operations has added 17 new areas of preventive maintenance to our regular services. We expect that such initiatives will continue and expand, resulting in more efficiency and smoother operations. Our vision is to pay attention to compliance, to have a deeper dive into the classroom and closed areas, and identify more flooring upgrade opportunities. We will also be looking at potential opportunities to resurface and stripe blacktops and parking lots. And we would like to provide more professional development opportunities to our staff throughout the year. Thank you to our teams in maintenance, grounds, custodial, warehouse, transportation, and office who have been able to show their dedication through customer service, attention to details, and flexibility to create success stories. Last year, we celebrated our success together with the board and cabinet members. Our staff were recognized and received several awards, including the Employee of the Year award. Our custodial manager, Juan Sanchez, was also the recipient of the Excellence in Education award. Thank you to our wonderful management staff, Rachel Mercado, Coordinator of Purchasing and Warehouse, Arlie Hill, the Coordinator of Maintenance and Transportation, and Juan Sanchez, Coordinator of Custodial and Operations, for making this happen efficiently and effectively. The operations team is grateful for the opportunity given to us by the Board of Trustees, Superintendent, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, Cabinet, and the community to serve and make a difference. Thank you very much for your continuous support.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to start with questions now. Philippe, how do you say your last name? Because I want to say trustee.
Dimitriev.
Dimitriev. So trustee Dimitriev. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a comment and two questions. First, I just want to say your tennis court, what do you call it? Resurfacing was amazing. I am on the tennis team, and when the courts got resurfaced, it was really pleasant to play on.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So we really appreciate that work. My two questions are, so the very first one, you mentioned that you've been working on pool equipment. I know Amador's pool is plagued by a few issues.
Yes.
Have you been working on the Amador pool?
Yes, we have a temporary solution. Right now, the pool is functioning properly.
Mm-hmm.
We have also contracted a company. They are supposed to deliver the pump on the third week of August, and we will implement the new pump over there, and hopefully that will resolve the issues.
That's perfect. That's before the swimming season. And then my next question for the plumbing issues at Foothill. When the plumbing did burst, were the students displaced? And if they were, was there proper classroom replacements for the students?
No, it did not affect the students. It
Okay.
affected the restrooms. One restroom actually was shut down, and also it affected some of the custodial closets, which
Okay.
is our custodians use. So what we did actually after this, because we completely had to reroute all the pipelines under the ground, we had to shut down two custodial closets, but the restroom and the kitchen is fully operational.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Trustee Maher?
Yes, Mehdi, thank you for all the hard work your team has put in, and I don't think everyone realizes or knows that when we had the not small fire, but the fire at Amador, Mehdi was there all night. So that's the type of dedication this man has. Thank you very, very much for all you do.
I appreciate that.
Trustee Walker?
Yeah, thank you, Mehdi. I know you have done many successful projects, so I applaud you. The schools looked great today, by the way. I just wanted to have one comment and kind of a question about the Amador pool. I'm a renter of the Amador pool. I'm a swim coach and a swimmer, so thank you for getting us in this summer. But I wanted to ask, so now I see that the pool heating and the filtration is now going to be, that's one of the 17 new areas of preventative maintenance. Is that correct?
Yes.
For the Amador pool. Is it our staff that's doing that preventative maintenance?
The maintenance is done by our own staff, yes.
Okay. And then, so the impeller situation is going to be fixed, you said in the second?
By a contractor. By end of August, we expect that this will be done completely.
Okay, so moving forward, we're going to have our swim and dive and water polo teams with a pool, functioning pool.
Another thing actually we have is we have a plan with Ahmed's approval, Mr. Sheikh Islami's approval, is to replace the heaters. So that's our plan also as to implement it next.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you.
Trustee Makashi?
So one question and a couple comments. And I'll start out, or do you want to wait for comments till the end? No, we're not voting. Oh, okay. First, I just wanted to highlight the time, and this is going to be a general comment to all staff. I really like how you wrote your narrative, where it says description and rationale. You gave a very comprehensive report in addition to the PowerPoint slide, and I really like the conciseness and the information, especially the layout of the financials that you gave in that write-up. So I just wanted to applaud you and your staff and some of the other reports because it really kind of pinpointed how to look at the information and get that. I also wanted to applaud, I know I have the benefit, not every trustee attends the facility committee meetings, but your regular reports keeps us abreast. And so really appreciate the visuals as well as to the report that you've given. So big applaud. And I also really like the slide deck where you're, highlighting with your staff, celebrating their work, because it's some of the work that you guys do is kind of thankless job. So I think that's really important to really reiterate with your own staff how much you appreciate what they're doing to help keep things functioning, so that we had today as a very successful first day of school, go off without a hitch, except for maybe the white curbs at LSL. So, anyway, I appreciate that. And I also like how you just pull it out, key points. So thank you. I wanted to just highlight that. My question is actually relating to one of the questions I had in the Q&A, and I apologize. I was having problems pulling up the slide due to the extensive number of slides. But if we could pull it to the slide where it talks about the actual versus the projected.
Slide 64.
Thank you. Could you pull to slide 64? Because I'm scrolling through and I'm still on page 42. Okay, great. I asked it in the Q&A, but I really wanted you to kind of elaborate and give it an example of where it was projected at a certain item and it was grossly under like $250,000 and why it was different. And I know you gave a very comprehensive response in the Q&A, but I'd like a little more context if you could give that. So just bear with us as we get the slide up so people can see it. And then I gave a couple examples in the Q&A, so you could just pull one of them, but I just would like to get clarity on that.
Why
download the PDF and then open it that way? It's not possible.
Yeah, but while we are waiting for that, I wanted actually you made wonderful comments, and is absolutely with the help Miss Wells, Ann Wells, our executive director of finance, assisted with pulling all the financials and making it so nice and clear. And also Mr. Sheikh Islami for reviewing the whole outlined. So basically, it was a teamwork. It wasn't an individual work.
Absolutely. And the reason why you haven't heard from me is because I walk my dog every morning going through from the Walnut Grove Park through Harvest Park and that trail. So I always notice when you guys are doing the trimming of the grass and the challenges that I know you've mentioned before. Sometimes neighbors or residents might throw extra debris, and you guys are helping to clean that up. And so I think that
and we encourage them not to do that.
it's very much appreciated. If it's easier, you could also go into the Q&A document, and because I highlighted, I think there was an example of, I can't remember exactly, it was the roofing or something that was projected at one item. Might be easier to just go to my question for time's sake.
But I actually remember the details. Like, for example, one of the budgets was for painting exteriors. That was about almost about 250K lower than projected, because we didn't actually paint Fairlands. We decided to postpone that. That was the reason that's for 250K lower. And there was another one for, don't remember exactly. I remember that one very clearly.
Well, you're thinking.
So, like the other example was like the exterior painting, and it was earmarked for $450,000, and it was grossly, significantly not.
Well, because we didn't paint Fairlands, and we also didn't.
Was that a time issue then?
No, we postponed Fairlands because we want to complete it with the TK project.
Yeah,
because we have a lot of work over there. And
I wanted to add some context. So a lot of times the plans we put together, sometimes they change in terms of, again, some of the scope of it. Sometimes we anticipate we're going to be able to do so much improvements, and we do a little bit less. Sometimes the bids come under what we projected. So there's a kind of a multitude of reasons sometimes. But on the routine restricted, those dollars stay within that restricted fund and they carry over. And actually, in some years, you may do less work, and in some years, you may do more, because you have to let a certain type of project, like a roofing project or a major asphalt project, cost a little bit more, so you actually need to build it up a little bit to be able to do it. So there's different reasons for that, but those dollars always stay with maintenance. So if that kind of helps in terms of the planning. The planning is a rolling forward type of planning.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I have the page here in front of me, so that was one of them. The other one is the tree services. We projected 150K because we expected more trees to be removed and planted, but thankfully, because we were doing it like on a gradual basis and consistently over the years, our damages have been much lower than prior years. Another item I have is gym renovations for middle schools, 125K versus 27K. Again, because we already resurfaced the area, that's number one. And number two is that all the work that we wanted to do in coordination with the city, we postponed that because we are signing a new agreement with the city. Basically, new scoreboards, new water fountains, new flooring for the entrance to the gyms. We postponed all of those, so that's another 100K. So the difference, that's where it is coming from.
Okay, great. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And just to kind of attest to deferred maintenance issues that, I think it's important to recognize that around 2008, 2010, there was a lot of maintenance work that was deferred and not maintained. And so there's a lot of catch-up work, and obviously the bond work that's helping to do that as well. So just wanted to say thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And for the upcoming year, we have actually a more aggressive approach towards maintenance and renovation. So hopefully next year we will report that.
Great, thank you. And now I think the slide PowerPoint's up. So thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Brown?
Yeah, so that was part of my question. So we'll just stay on that slide for a second. So it sounds like the painting of Fairland from an exterior perspective shifted to 2024, 25,
yes,
which is why it's different than 25, 26.
It may be 24, 25, but again, it depends on the TK progress. As soon as we know that, then we will have a better picture.
Okay. And have you adjusted, I know what I appreciate about your comments is we've learned from the situation at the Amador pool, and we've added additional areas for preventative maintenance.
Yes.
Have we adjusted the budget forecasts for those new 17 areas?
Not at this time,
or 11
because
areas?
not at this time yet,
Okay.
because we were not sure about the proposals. Once the proposals come, because we have kind of a flux of money over here, and we are moving it basically within the categories. I believe we have enough sufficient fund to cover that.
Okay.
Like if you can see the field renovation landscaping, we projected 250K, but we spent about 400K because we did a lot more. So basically, but the fund is still, the total is still lower than the total, the main total, I would say, or the projected, but the fund is still there.
Okay. Last question was you had a line item in the detailed introduction, which I appreciate the fact it wasn't, as Trustee McCaughey pointed out, wasn't duplicative and stood on its own. That you had gas, electricity, water at 5.5 million.
Yes.
Are you seeing that go up, and if so, by approximately how much? Are we talking 20% year over year, or what is the growth?
Typically,
in that?
what we do, we add 8% to the fund per year.
Okay.
And we have been doing that for the past 4 years, at least, or 4.5 years I have been here.
Okay.
This year, we also added another 8% to every category.
Okay.
And, I expect the garbage and disposal to stay about the same because we are taking some action and we are kind of reducing some of the iterations of garbage removal.
Okay.
But for the water, gas, electricity, we expect to definitely go higher.
Okay. Last comment is we had 10 minutes against this for the presentation, and then the first time in my 2 years on the board, you came in at 8 minutes. So, I mean,
That is Maurice.
I understand. Kudos to staff. It's been one of the things we've been talking about, condensing, getting to the material information faster. So I'll echo a lot of Trustee McCaughey's comments. So kudos there. Thank you very much for your hard work. The schools look amazing.
Thank you so much.
I didn't get to visit all of the ones that the rest of the trustees did today, but the 2 that I went to just looked phenomenal. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And we had a good directive for 7 minutes to finish the part.
Yes, and we've even got cue cards here. He's got cards that he's going to flash if you're going over. So I want to say that they look great. We were at most of the schools today. But I did have a question about Alice Al outside my old classroom. And maybe you can update us in the communique about what we're doing about that situation with the trees. It doesn't look very good.
The trees in the so that needs a significant work because we cannot remove the roots. All the roots which are coming out. If we cut the roots, the tree will be killed, and the tree is an excellent shade for that area. If we remove it, they will be out of shade completely. So that's a kind of bigger plan that we have to work with the facilities team and see what kind of solutions we can put in place.
Okay, and I have 2 questions about the grounds maintenance slide. It's if you can pull it up, but it basically said that there's overtime on Saturdays.
Yes.
So how do you determine who gets the overtime? Is it like on a rotating basis, or okay?
There is a seniority list
Okay.
that all the employees are actually listed over there, plus those who are interested to come into grounds and get trained. So basically, we have sent the announcement to all employees, all CSEA staff, that they are eligible to participate in the grounds and in grounds and custodial work. And we provide free training, paid actually training, 3 hours and 6 hours, and they can get trained and just help us. So far, we have had 1 person interested from CSEA, who is an admin person who is interested to come and do the grounds. Only 1 single person. But we have some custodians interested, and they are actually have been helping us in the past 2-3 years. For the custodial, we have had about, I can say maybe about 3-4 people. They have been interested, and we have trained them, and they are actually helping us. And again, it goes based on seniority list, and we go top to bottom and just basically keep rotating.
Okay, great. And my last question is, when I was there was a lot of geese. How are we tackling the geese problem?
We just watch them and enjoy them.
Okay, so we just learn to live with the geese? There's nothing we can do?
There is absolutely nothing we can do. Yes,
Okay.
we have
Okay.
used different chemicals. Something is called Kool-Aid, basically.
Okay.
Spread Kool-Aid, spread some strobe lights. There was something is called geese vegan, and we actually it was very expensive. It was $75 per each gallon.
Okay.
So we used that one. It was
Okay.
effective only for 2-3 days, and then once the dew came over it, then they came back again.
Okay.
So.
All right, well, thank you for
There
trying.
is absolutely no way to
Okay.
leave our guests.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on to B now. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. B, report discussion, technology department annual update. Thanks for giving them the heads up for 10 minutes.
Great. As Robert gets his way, I'm happy to introduce Mr. Torres, our Chief Technology Officer, who will give a report of the fiscal year 23-24 and our upcoming work in the coming fiscal year. Mr. Torres.
Thank you. Good evening, President Carrion, trustees, executive team, Dr. Geisels, members of the community. I'm pleased to present this annual update. First, I'd like to start off by acknowledging the other superheroes that don't wear capes, and that's the technical team that are working round the clock all the time on behalf of the district, every student, every staff member, to make sure these systems are operational. With that, we'll go ahead and begin with talking about the student information system, which by far last year was the largest project that we tackled. A quick note about the student information system. There you go. I guess I'm driving. Sorry about that. The student information system, we talk about two systems in the district that have the biggest impact and the heaviest lift when you're changing systems. One is the financial system, which it affects the front office people in general for the operational side. And then there's the student information system, where it affects every single individual in the classroom and front offices. So with that, we went live July 23rd. I'm going to show you a quick little infographic, if you will, of the number of hours that the district committed to support this transition. There was 817. There was meetings, ongoing meetings with all staff, all stakeholder groups, all persons to understand what the need was. Lots of training, lots of just-in-time training as well as we went throughout this. And many office hours. Office hours where after training was done, we went ahead and initiated bring your questions and allow us the opportunity to go through that. The integrations are at 15, and even as I sit here today, we added another 3 or 4 new instructional applications, so that continues to grow. And in the bigger picture of the project, one thing that needs to be mentioned about the 4 years of the data that we brought from Q is that we're coming from a system that was 15 years in the making to allow us to get acclimated and was customized to our needs over a 15-year time period. So imagine that transition coming into this system. So we did experience challenges like any system conversion. Right up front, the learning curve hit us right smack in the face. All of us were learning together on what this new system looked like, coming from that 15-year-old system. We had lots of customizations coming from the old system, again, 15 years worth. To give you a small example, the number of custom reports we had in the Q system were about 154. So imagine coming from that system and whomever those users were for those 154 reports, asking for those same reports right out of the gate. The data conversion and mapping was a huge task. These systems don't perfectly align, so we had to take that 15 years of data, wherever it was plugged into that system, and map it accordingly. We rinsed this data time and time again through 15 rounds of data conversion. Aside from the challenges, it is an emotional toll on staff, and we were all in this together. Imagine my own staff learning right alongside the staff to become subject matter experts in this process. We did have some successes, so through it all, we had some successes. Out of the gate, one of the first things you look for is operational readiness. Day one, can we take attendance when we open the doors? That's usually, folks don't look at it as a success, but it really is, because it was a huge lift to get us there. And so the first thing that you notice is day one, can we do attendance? Can we do scheduling? Were we able to do state reporting? Were we able to allow the parents the opportunity to get in the portal? So when you look at the system from a bigger standpoint, the operational readiness, we didn't see any significant major flaws that were showstoppers that interrupted the operations. In this process, we were allowed to do some streamlining with grading. We brought some report cards over from Illuminate. We were able to streamline it into one system so that from a stakeholder standpoint, our parents didn't have to go into 2 different systems to look for a student's grade on sibling matches. So that was good that we were able to do things like that along the gradebook and have a centralized gradebook. We were also able to consolidate systems. We brought also over an application in the 11th hour, the 504 application from the Illuminate. And as we consolidate, what we're trying to do is bring things together so it's easier for our users overall. Now, keep in mind, in that transition, it is difficult. It is difficult because you're asking your users to learn about two different systems. Testing, we brought some testing results over from Illuminate. So that consolidation, the goal is to reduce the number of data silos as you go through this process. And we had some successes with that. There's obviously opportunities that lie ahead for us. And so we want to make sure that as we continue to grow in this system, that we have an application proficiency. And through repetition, through our users continuing to use the system in their specific roles, we will get there. You don't get it in year one. You start to gain the traction in year two. And by the time you get into the third year, after you're addressing these things and have an improvement plan, things become to get more proficient for you. All the while, the system keeps changing along the way. So we have to keep that in mind. The other thing we talk about is the functionality. So as we're moving along, these things are being enhanced in real time. So for example, this year we got a brand new version. They call it version 2025. So we just learned the basic system. Now you've got an enhancement that improves the efficiency, and you've got to continue to evaluate that functionality to see what you can make improvements on. And so that leads me to the third point on that, workflow improvements. We're in the process of looking at old legacy processes, looking at where data was in the old system to say, how can we do things much more efficiently? And how we get there is going through the process in this continuous improvement approach where we have to work with our select role-based groups. For example, registrars at this time of year get hit really hard. Counselors get hit hard, teachers. So we have to figure out how do we get this opportunity in this journey where everyone's working hard and gather the feedback so we can go on there with precision to make sure that we make those improvements along the way. So we have to do that by leveraging our own support systems. Our users have to be able to count on us. We have to have a help desk system to track these things. We have to have strength upstream with our vendor partners so that they're responsive as we advocate for our users. And I'll tell you, we got one of the best advocates. On top of his advocacy is my own advocacy, and Mr. Junior Ewing, he's here. He is amazing when it comes to advocating. And when he hits a snag, then I advocate on behalf of our users. A lot of the advocacy you don't see that I do publicly is happening 24/7, around the clock. The outage we had the other night, within 15 minutes, I was on the horn with the vice president of the company to make sure that we had that. So those are important things. As we go through this, we have to be transparent about this. We have to acknowledge what's happening. We may not like the results, but we have to let our users know what the reality is as we encounter things. And then at the end of the day, where we're at in the process in this year too, we need to implement some quick wins. We need to have some celebrations because it's really easy to take this type of emotional significant change and just lose track of what the focus is to improve the process. So we have to have those wins. Where are we going? Keep up with me here. Well, there you go. There's technology, right? Okay. So with that, so that was the continuous improvement process, SIS. I'm going to switch gears to something equally and just as important. Without having any cyber defenses, we have no system. So with that, the district has taken a layered approach. And we have all of these buckets tracked right now. And the firewall, we've got the best practices in place. Our monitoring detection, as we sit here in this meeting, we have what I call a virtual cyber agent working on our behalf, watching our systems. If something starts to happen, it'll shut it down. Obviously, we protect our end users all along the way with virus protection. We have a big project that we're working on. You'll hear more about this year, and this is the multi-factor authentication, where every user needs to have that in place. And so we've got a big group coming up. I'll just warn you in advance. It's the teachers. And the simplest way that I can talk to people about multi-factor authentication, how do you want to protect your own personal data? It's you being responsible and being a part of this team so that we don't fall victim to the cyber criminals out there. Of course, we've got a backup and recovery strategy. And part of this process is us personally email phishing our users to see where the weaknesses are. The biggest weakness in any organization is the human element. All these layers don't work if somebody clicks on the wrong email. So we're doing that. And the last thing we'll add to that layer that's coming this year for the first time is mandatory training for cybersecurity. With the phishing campaign, you can see last year we fished our users anonymously. We had 320, 175 clicked on data, so that's 175 attempts to expose our data. This year, we saw a little improvement, but still need some work to be done. We communicated with our users through newsletters. We've got different ways of reporting things to us. And then, like I just mentioned a second ago, the Keen and Safe trainings is a mandatory requirement, and we'll continue to improve upon that. Switch replacement, just want to get to your attention real quick. 53% of the network gear that's in place right now is obsolete soon, and so we'll be looking at E-rate, which is a funding mechanism to allow us to take advantage to bring in equipment. So you'll see something more on that later in the year. I want to just acknowledge the hard work that these superheroes that we have in our team are doing. We had this data center relocation and moving this district fiber network over to this building, so all sites are coming into the central host here. And then some quick stats, 10,000 tickets this year, 96% success rate on that, and we answered the question about what some of those reasons for not being 100%. Finally,
Robert.
Yeah.
We committed to 10 minutes,
Yep.
and the good news is, trustees, you have all this information in your packet, and it's substantively written in your narrative. Do you want to make a final comment?
We are committed. We are committed to supporting our users. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Dimitri?
Yes, I have several questions and a comment. So first of all, with the whole synergy thing, we really appreciate your department's support during this sometimes rocky journey. But seeing the tickets, we're very good at responding to questions. My first question is on I think on the second slide, you talk about integrations. From a student perspective, I've never really noticed these integrations in action. Can you explain what those really are?
So, for example, when you're using your Clever application and it's loading that, we have to load information from our student information system that gives us your user account information, and then we make a tight integration so that it's seamless to you as the end user so that you can utilize that. That's a small example.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then my second question is, speaking about the cyber attacks, are students ever targeted in these?
Yes, they are. They are. And believe it or not, you know, the threat sometimes comes from within, accidentally, where a student might be tinkering with something and launch something, a denial of service attack internally, just trying things out. But they are targets because their email accounts are out there just like the employee accounts, and so we try to put a tighter email system in place when we first launch each and every student's account. We mix it with the security practices that are best practices versus generic words.
Yeah, so next year this MFA procedure, will that apply to students or staff only?
We're going to complete staff first, and then we'll have that discussion about students. That is a different lift for us as well.
Cool, thank you.
Trustee Maher?
I have some concerns, but the one question I have, how much is it costing us as a district each year that we have synergy?
How much is
cost?
The annual cost? Yeah, so the basic SIS package is $160,000 a year annually, subscription based, and there's the optional module for the 504, which is around $12,000 on the renewal.
Anticipate by year 3 everything will be smooth, because I'm getting a lot of I don't want to say complaints, but certainly concerns from teachers that it's difficult to get on at times.
Yeah, the idea this year after that first year lift is really to focus in on what we can start to give the users confidence back. And again, it goes to the smaller groups of working directly with registrars, counselors, teachers, wherever that need is, and making sure we have the right support systems in place so we go directly to the user. The first year, everybody is just scrambling to get into it to make sure we can take attendance on day one. This year, we're going to start to really focus in specifically on those areas of need.
And what actually happened with our system the other day when it went down?
So that was classic example. We're hosted in the cloud by the vendor, and so what we had happen is as the release of schedules went out, everybody hit the button at the same time. The server CPU hadn't anticipated that type of load because they don't typically design one-to-one. And as it hit at about 5:17, one of the servers in the farm CPU got locked up. And so the other two continued to function, so we had intermittent usage of it. In fact, we had the stats from that. In the first hour, we had like 11,000 successful parent and student logins, and we saw 10,000 and 7,000, even in that hour of the outage, because they designed those with redundancy to hit it. And the best way to describe it is like if you got a really good concert coming out in Ticketmaster and everybody's wanting to get that first seat and they hit it, it locks up. It happens to us. It happens to the outside. But we did learn from that. We did put some practices in place. We did talk with our partner and increase the resources so that we don't have this issue ongoing. And we didn't experience this last year because we had a new group learning, and that was the parents. And so we didn't expect them to go in there and learn it right out of the gate and hit the button and crash the system. They had to learn alongside us as well.
Is that Synergy's responsibility?
Yes.
They should have known that?
Well, they should have known that, and they design an 80-20 rule. So they don't expect that everybody's going to hit the system at one time.
Huh.
We have really engaged parents, and that's a good thing. And if we say 4:30, 4:30 they're hitting the button.
But to follow up on that, could you stagger it, like certain grades have access to it at a certain time?
No, we didn't, but we've had conversations about that. Generally speaking, we don't like to inconvenience our own users with that. So learning through this process, we can now allocate the resources for this need. In fact, they had two things happen. One, that server locked up, and then they had an auto scaler that should have looked at the resources being degraded. And for some reason, that piece didn't kick in to help compensate for that one down server. So it's kind of twofold, unfortunately.
Now, are grades parents are going to download the grades too when it's time?
Yeah, no, that's ongoing. We've already been through that exercise, their usage patterns on that.
Okay, it won't lock up?
No. We've went through a whole year of that cycle already, how that process is rolled out. But in addition to that, those resources are in place as a result of that last issue.
Trustee Walker?
Okay, mine's on Synergy. Are we going to continue to use Synergy for the foreseeable future?
Yes, we're in a 5-year contract. So if there's an opportunity to reassess ourselves, the opportune time would be at year 3. As we get into year 3, start the planning. It takes about a couple years to plan for these types of systems. And so you just, unless there's a major deficiency where you're hard down, and there's some relevancy behind it, it's difficult. But Ahmad, did you want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, I think that timeline is really the year 3 is the time to evaluate and make decision. It's a 2-year process to convert, and so we're in a 5-year contract. So I think this year, hopefully, we get things stabilized. Next year, we do an evaluation and determination if we continue or we do a transition.
Is 5 years the normal contract time period? 5 years? Is 5 years the normal contract period?
Yes. Yes.
Not 3?
Yeah. So what happens, like when you come from a 15-year-old system like this, it takes us a good 2 years to normalize the data. And even as I stand here today, I'm still trying to figure out where things that were done in a customized system, where they fit in this bigger system. So, and you can imagine, the emotional toll that we all went through together on this collectively, trying to do this in the 3rd year and do it again. You don't even get a chance to recover. So 5 years is a good cycle for these types of large systems to get a good evaluation to make sure that it's the right fit for the organization.
Okay, so I appreciate that. I mean, trying to learn Q when I worked at Amador was off the chart. So thank you for all you're doing with Synergy. I just wanted to ask about the training. So you're going to have training sessions for the registrars and the front office staff, specific dedicated training towards
the
front office staff.
Yes.
And teachers as well?
That's correct.
Who does that training?
The instructional coaches, and by the way, I want to send out kudos to them as well. Junior led that team last year with the instructional coaches. They did a phenomenal job on behalf of the teachers, so we've got lots of resources out there. We'll continue to do trainings. We'll continue to do office hours where folks can join us, and we're standing by to answer questions, do one-on-one trainings. In fact, we just completed a counselor training in the last couple of days here as well, just-in-time training for them.
Okay, and Junior Yi is heading that up?
Yes.
That's fantastic. I feel very, very good about that. That's great. Thank you. That's all I have.
Trustee McCoshey?
So first and foremost, I wanted to thank you for your comprehensive presentation. 2 points I'd like to highlight would be the way you captured the tracking of the data, especially the ticket usage from 1 year to the last, comparing that. I would encourage you to continue to provide that longitudinal data so we can track that. The other point I'd like to make is that just kind of echo with what the other trustees have stated. Clearly, it looks like Synergy's learning some new things with our district, or I'm not quite sure, some of the hiccups that have gone through. The rollout has been really challenging, but that's with any kind of new implementation. It's to be expected. I'm hoping that we can certainly have an opportunity to follow up with them on maybe some bonus time where they could provide. I think it's really more of a professional development training, already echoed by some of my other trustees. It's really about having those who are using it understand how to apply it and use it. But from a parent, I find it to be very, very easy to access. My kids also transitioned very, very easy from Q to Synergy. So I think from that perspective, I think there's a lot of pluses. I think some of the challenges that we're hearing is really echoing on really more of the proper training for whether it be registrar or teachers. And from my reflection observation, they had to kind of learn as they go on the job, which is really, really challenging. So any way that the company can compensate some of the challenges that we as the customer have had to deal with, I think would be critical. But that's pretty much echoed in previous, we've had multiple conversations about this, so I just wanted to echo that. But my last comment would be a question to the ticket system. I know that there was a transition, I think, in the last year going from this ticket system compared to the on-site support on campuses for teachers for tech issues. So I did ask that question about, the number of tickets not resolved, but I really would like to know, what are the teachers feeling about that ticket system, and how is that, have you gotten feedback from how has that been transitioning for them? Because I know that was a really, really big concern. Changing to that model. I mean, I've worked in ed tech, and I went through like remote support to get someone from Austin, Texas to work with me on a tech issue on my own computer that they had to like authorize. So, we kind of learn as we go, but I know it's a big difference for teachers who might have like, 20 little kindergartners, and there's some sort of tech issue in the live moment of a lesson kind of flopping. So have you gotten any feedback from the teachers of their input and adjustments to the ticket system?
Yes, thank you. Great question. Appreciate the comments on the Synergy system. So with the help desk system, that system is designed to allow us maximum support based on tickets coming in. So far since the reorganization and the reallocation of site staff to cover multiple sites, I'll use this year as the gauge to see where we're at. This year, for the first time, we didn't bring in additional subs to cover one-to-one. We went ahead and went at it, one, for budgetary reasons, but for two, to see how the model is working. And in today's deployment today, I didn't hear anything falling out of the sky about it. So there's been an adjustment to use the system, allow us an opportunity to respond. The other thing about the help desk system, looking at last year's data, it gave us an opportunity where we heard loud and clear, hey, I need more support over here. We've got more issues and whatnot. So the data really supported that, and we're going to implement one of those changes to one of the zone regions this year to make sure we got adequate coverage on that. We do know that folks are not putting tickets in there. We see some interesting trends in there where either they got super savvy teachers out there, or they're grabbing the tech by the shoulder or calling them on the cell phone directly. But those things will flush out over time. But so far, I think we're doing a really good job with the adjustments there and the data supporting what we wanted to do ultimately to get the right resources in the right places.
Okay. All right. Well, I look forward to hearing more input and feedback on that process as it morphs, because obviously there's a reason why it was supported to put it in place to optimize and make things more efficient. But I think it's important to get additional, especially if you're also saying that they're kind of avoiding the system. It's digging down deeper on the why of that. Is it really more of it's because it's easier for them to call their tech support person versus going through the process of doing the ticket? Then we need to kind of drill that down to make maybe the ticket system easier or whatnot. So anyway, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Okay, so a number of questions. So how often do you do your fishing with staff?
Ideally, we'd like to get where we're doing that in a perfect world quarterly, because you want to see that continuous improvement. What we'll stress this year is 2 years. The first time we rolled that out, we had some pushback. Hey, you're being sneaky. That's not fair. You shouldn't do that. But the reality is, the more you fish, the better the improvements with the training program in place. So this year we'll go for 2, and ultimately we'd like to do that once a quarter.
Okay. Best practice in the IT industry is monthly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay.
The other thing is typically most companies will have a report phishing button, so that you get an acknowledgement of not just the ones that ignored it and deleted it, but those that sort of recognized it as a phishing exercise. So that gives you another view as to how savvy your folks are. In terms of what is your password expiration policy? It's not mentioned here.
So we follow the federal guidelines. Interestingly enough, there was conversation in the state of California about the frequency and changing them. But if you follow the federal guidelines and their NIST guidelines, there is no password change, because that is the weakest link. Because as you require users to do more password change, it's easy to find the passwords underneath the keyboard or right on the screen there. So you change as you're compromised, but you layer in other technologies like MFA.
Okay. I mean, our company uses MFA, but we also are forced to change our passwords every 3 months. And I've been on the board for 2 years. I've never had to change my password. I mean, luckily mine's complex because it's the way it is, but I would reconsider that. As you move forward with MFA, are you considering lower cost ways of doing it? My point here is, like, today my MFA is a token on my phone. I get a push message, or I can put in a code. But one of the things that we're moving to as a company is actually offering fingerprint or face recognition, because a lot of the MacBooks and stuff have fingerprint recognition, or it can use the camera, and it's a much faster and less intrusive way of doing MFA. I'm just imagining teachers in their classroom trying to pull out their phone and put in the code for MFA and so on. It's a transition, but I'm just saying explore all the options for MFA if you can. Yeah. The comments around the cloud scalability and the autoscaler, that's unacceptable. I'm not saying your answer is unacceptable. I'm saying you should not accept that as an answer from our vendor, and you should ask for a deep dive, because there is technology that would prevent that, to your point around autoscaling, and we should not accept that as an answer. So do a deep dive with them. That system is too critical to accept that as an answer. Last question is around synergy. So some of the parents on Tuesday were reporting that some of their students had 2 different schedules, and they were working with the counselors, and the counselors were completely overloaded, at least at PMS, and there was a lot of confusion because they had 2 different schedules. Were you aware of that problem, and if so?
Yes, we got word of that, and we investigated from a scheduling perspective, but my understanding that was something different. Ed or Josh, you want to respond to that, if we're talking about the same issue?
If I can clarify, Trustee Brown, is this the parent view, the double schedules that were being seen, that email?
Sorry, it was double schedules. It was causing confusion, and students were missing classes and so on. And then the second, since you're kindly jumping in as well, the second question I have is, why do we only allow 1 day to fix the schedules? Is that on us, or is that a synergy issue?
We actually, it's not just 1 day. We have, where's Josh? How long is that schedule? I mean, we can adjust schedules. Some of the schools are different, so I'm going to ask our director of secondary to answer that question.
Okay.
Mr. Torres, the first question is the parent view question about seeing the double schedules, and the counselors and parents were seeing that on their parent view screen. Not the counselors, the parents.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that. I'd need to have an example of that so we can do root cause analysis on that.
Okay, yeah. I had some parents kindly send examples, so I'll pass it on to staff. But yeah, I mean the scheduling. Obviously, everyone's sitting there. To your point, everyone's eager. It's great that we've got in both the parent and the student access to our systems now. But when they crash, when there's double schedules, all those things, it would be nice if we had a larger window between when we say go look at your schedules to the first day of school, right? A day of extreme pressure and confusion between parents and the counselors is not productive to anyone. So I'm not trying to take away from all the amazing work that's happened, but I also don't want to assume everything is roses and butterflies.
Can I just ask you, Claire, are you referring to the point where schedules were visible to parent view and when school started? Is that the window you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of parents are like, oh, they're missing music, they're missing PE, etc. And like I said, these examples that I got were from PMS, and maybe it's just a PMS issue, but if we had a larger window between when schedules are available to when kids start, parents would panic less when there are these issues.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback. It is in line with what our kind of lag time between schedule view and first day school has always been. Like if school started on Tuesday, schedules come out on Sunday. Part of that decision process, and we'll take that feedback to consider, but just to kind of, the decision process on that is when staff return on contract days, and to make schedules visible prior to counselors even being on contract and available to respond to questions causes more angst and anxiety. We found because we used to do a week in advance probably 10 years ago, but then people would send requests for schedules and there's nobody there to answer the questions. So it's aligned with when staff return to work and counselor contracts start. Otherwise, there's nobody to answer those concerns or questions if we make it visible too early.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, but maybe we can sort of think through that over the next year. And see if there's an in-between that's possible, because I feel for the counselors that are taking all these calls and they've got they've got discrepancies that they're managing. They've got parents that are just eager to send the kids off to school in a day, and it's just a lot of pressure on a lot of people in a very short period of time. So
thanks.
Anyway, thank you for accepting the feedback.
Mr. Brown, I wanted to relate to your point. I'm from Emerald, right? We had the same issue. I had friends that have 2 classes scheduled in one period. They had missing periods. They had completely different classes that they didn't sign up for. And I think that's a good point. It's good that you pointed that out. Yeah. And so they had, midway through the day, they had to change schedules. They had English added when they were missing English, which is a required component to graduate. So I think that was a big issue.
I'm glad to, I am and I'm not glad to know it's not just a PMS issue, and it's a broader issue that staff can take on and address with the vendor. So thank you for adding that.
I don't like to see unhappy teachers. I really don't. And I don't like to see unhappy students and parents, so I'm very distressed. We were at Foothill and we said, how did things go today? And teachers were saying that last night they spent all this time making a class seating chart, and they went to print it and it was gone. And Katrina was there and she said, don't even bother. I mean, that's not acceptable. They put all this time and effort into making a seating chart, and they have to do it by hand. And then the counselors take twice as long to input the information, and the principal was saying that he needs two screens to make changes. I mean, at what point do we say we made a mistake with Synergy? At what point do we say it's not working for us? That's my question. And I mean, can we survey teachers to say, do you want to start all over with the new system, or do you want to just dig in? Because with all these problems, I'm very distressed.
Appreciate the feedback there. I think from the perspective to address, like the seating chart, that's a good example. Yeah, I heard about that today. That's one that is concerning for me as well. And so I would need to understand the specifics of that to figure out what we can advocate on behalf of our teachers after seeing that and having that issue presented to us. Because a lot of times we get things that are happening, but we got to get to root cause. analysis and see if there is something going on with the system, or is it something on the training side that we need to provide just in time right there. So that one really is concerning to me because that's the first I'd heard of it. I talked to Junior prior to this meeting. Had he heard about that? And we hadn't. But that's where our help desk really comes into play for us. As soon as we hear about that, it gives us a reaction time to start that advocacy on behalf of our users to see what's happening, but also dig deeper for additional information to help resolve the issue.
Yeah, again, the bigger issue to me is it possible to survey our teachers to say, do you want a brand new system, or is it even out of the question because we were stuck for 5 years? I mean, I hate that idea. I mean, again, if we make a mistake, we got to admit it and fix it.
Sure.
I think those are discussions best looked at because, when you look at a product and, your contract and your agreement, you have to kind of dive deep. I mean, it's not just a reaction of, we don't like it, it's not working, this wasn't the right system, and we can just change it. It's just a 2-year process. And so we have to make that in an educated and fully transparent way. We got to know what works, what doesn't work, were we able to stabilize and address those issues. And at some point, yeah, we have to make it, but we have to make it so we can make that transition, if that's a decision made, in again, a smooth fashion. And so we've laid it out. We believe that 5-year time plan of checking, stabilizing it this year, and then next year is kind of like the decision time. Do we keep or do we change? And then if we decide to change, then we have 2 years to plan for that change. Even if we decided now, in addition to the legal and contractual issues and the cost issues, we would still be 2 years away from a transition, and it would cost the district heavily to do that midpoint. So I know it's difficult, but I think we have a game plan and a team that is ready to address some of the issues that have been raised here and others that we have to go and still understand from the end users, from the teachers, from the registrar, what's working. We've run into other individuals who say, I love this system, it worked, this is great, I like this feature. There is challenges, but I don't think we're there yet. We're going to meet with the company's ownership and kind of really put it on in terms of, hey, we need everything kind of from their standpoint to be done right, and the things that we need to do in terms of training and professional development need to still continue.
So is there a way to collect that data? These are the things that are not working in Synergy.
Typically, you would collect that data through our help desk system, where we're tracking the type of event, the type of module, so that we have actionable data to make those decisions, and then it makes it for us. And the help desk system helps us to identify if we have a training issue, if we have systemic glitches that warrant a change, from a product defect standpoint. So the best thing that I could offer up for us to help ourselves is, through the use of the help desk system, take a look at the type of tickets that are coming in to figure out what our needs really are, and if they are really system glitches or system design flaws.
President Karen, could I make a comment? So I just would like to state that in listening to this conversation, I think there's a couple things going on. I think we need to take a step back and just realize, besides the help desk ticket system, some listening talks going around and talking to people about their situations, but I think there's two things going on. I think there's some potential assumptions being made here that it's all Synergy. It could be a training issue, like the double schedule problem. Was that a input issue? For example, missing periods or missing classes. Was that an input issue? Because it sounds like the district hasn't had time to do an analysis on that. I think part of what I'm also hearing is that at the end of the day, the staff and the teachers and administration needs support. So what is Synergy going to do to help support with the transition? Because we're already going on, this is year 2, to Ahmad's point. I think it is too early to pivot, but it's pretty obvious that, there's more support that's needed. And, the rollout of the classes and the system crashing, that could be an easy fix. Maybe you roll out elementary at 4 o'clock and, a time thing. That's an easy fix. But so that's my bigger point. I know there's other agenda items tonight, but I think that at the end of the day, there needs to be a collaborative effort to really help and from the ground up because the teachers and the staff and administration need more support. So I think Trustee Brown wants to say something.
Yeah, I agree with Trustee McCaughey. The danger is we don't want to, we want to make sure that we're listening to the teachers and the users in the interim, right? Like, I don't want to be blinders on, let's push through, we'll get through the pain and we'll have a great system. There is also appropriate to go back to the stakeholders and say, what is the system not doing for you? What are the glitches? The help desk system is great for glitches and other things potentially, but it's not going to address the missing functionality or where it's not. And so we need to be humble. We need to go back to the teachers and others and do a pulse check or whatever you want to call it. But I'm just saying we can't stay in the district office and just not have those discussions or hope that we'll push through. And you also need to hold the vendor accountable to the point I was making earlier. But you got to get that information first to hold their feet to the flame and say, look, this is where it's not working. We don't want to start pivoting in year 3 to another solution. We need to come up with solutions to these perceived deficiencies. So, and one last thing, by the way, on when you're presenting ticket data, median time to relief, and any sort of CSAT or feedback on the ticket is also useful data to present, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll say one last thing. So I just like to maybe follow up with a survey from teachers. You know, number one, we did a big change at the elementaries, and we used to have one per site. How is that going? How did that change go? And also, what do you need support with? If you could do that. And then did you want to add something?
Any other comments? Steve?
Robert, do you have the personnel to do this?
So where we stand right now, that's part of the assessment to make sure we're adequately staffed to handle the amount of volume coming in. It's difficult in year 1, and as we head into day 1 of year 2 to have a knee-jerk reaction and say, hey, we need this many more staff. So I can't say confidently right now we need that. The number of calls coming in might suggest that, but again, we got to figure out how many of these can be grouped and lumped together, how many of these might be training before we take that on, especially in these difficult budget times.
I mean, do you have the staff to go out to the schools and sit down with the staff and give us your feedback and then go back to the office and synthesize what's going on?
In my presentation, that gathered feedback was me going out there and putting my ear to the ground, sitting in that classroom and understanding. So, and Junior will be out there as well. But I need to, as you're all eloquently saying, get out there. I call it boots on ground. That's where you get the best information, boots on ground.
Even if you went to one elementary, one middle school, one high school, you might get a general picture of what is going on or what feedback is, and then try to address that.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Well, I think this is a very important discussion because, just kind of summing up, just want to add one thing new, but to sum up, it's really to understand their experience, and that has to be through multiple ways, right? It's going to be getting out there, listening to people's thoughts and feelings, embracing complaints that are informal, doing the formal frequency of defects through tickets, and really developing training that really hits those areas on one end for the teachers to understand the functionality. And then this leads into my big point of synergy, understanding what they have to improve. Because there was 150 something things going on in Q that were special fixes, right? Well, they got to do that too. And this is the point I want to add. We're the Pleasanton Unified School District. They need our support in terms of what we say about them. And what we are, who the teacher are to us, they're our customers. We have to serve, be servant leaders, and I appreciate Junior and Cindy and Robert and your team, what you're doing. We're Synergy's customers. And I get a little fired up about it. That thing that happened Tuesday night should not have happened. And then the text goes out, contact your school administrator. That was just completely unacceptable. They should know that a 13,000 seater, 14,000, is not LAUSD, and I'm going to be personally involved in making sure that we get the service. In other words, I'm going to be a customer, and they're going to hear about it, and I will come across in a positive way in the sense that what we want you to do is design for delight and make this customer experience, meaning our teachers, great, right? All the end users. And with that, I'd be glad to give you a reference. If not, we're going to be on them. I mean, today, you got people coming today. And I was running around, I wanted to meet them. But, I want to meet senior people in the company of Synergy and really visualize success, not go in there like a bulldog in a china cabinet, but really say, we could be an excellent customer you need to deliver. And there needs to be some urgency around this. So I appreciate your comments. I appreciate the work, Robert. We talk a lot about it. And again, Cindy and Junior and team. And thank you, Ahmad.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to C. Report discussion, listening campaign, engage phase to obtain input regarding the next superintendent. This is a discussion item, and we need to value community input. And so, do you have a microphone, Jim? Oh, yeah, thank you, yeah. The subcommittee met this summer to start the planning, and Jim is going to go over what we discussed and next steps.
So thank you very much for being here. The previous discussion was deja vu. 1985, I was one of 2 beta test sites for SASE in California. From when they rolled it out, I was one district. So it all sounds familiar. So again, very much want to thank Trustees Brown and Carrion for the work on the subcommittee. We had one meeting that was extremely valuable. I had blocked out 2 2-hour meetings, and I think we got it done in about an hour and 35, so very productive. Also want to thank Maurice, Lenita, and Patrick for their input as we've had several meetings to gather information. What I'd like to do is introduce my colleague, Alicia Henderson, who worked with both Maurice and I as superintendent in Mountain View Wistman, as well as Lenita and Lenita's mother. So it's like a homecoming week. But I've asked Alicia to briefly introduce herself. As I hold the mic.
So as Jim just said, I was a principal with Jim in Mountain View. That was an elementary principal, following a number of years in special education as a speech pathologist and special education administrator. That was followed by a principalship at the middle school with Dr. Geisels. And I worked with Lenita and your mom all those years in different places. I went to San Jose, worked in central administration, different roles, and then took a superintendent position in Santa Rosa. I was there for 5 years. And then I accepted an offer for a superintendent position in the state of Washington. I was there for 5 years. And then we decided to move back to California. I joined HYA and have been involved with a number of searches. Really enjoy it, and I agree very strongly with what Maurice said, that leadership does matter, and your role in selecting your superintendent, that's your most important job. And so I'm very honored to support you in that process. I also, like Dr. Geisels, accepted an interim superintendent position last spring. I guess once a superintendent, always a superintendent. And then I failed at retirement because I just accepted a very part-time superintendent position in a little district in Northern California in the Redwoods next to Sea Ranch. So I'm part-time still, but there's no such thing as a part-time superintendent. It's interesting, the same number of reports that you have to do in this size district, I have to do in a little tiny district. Anyway.
And the ABA is?
Oh, it ranges from 75 students to 90 students. So it's a little tiny place, very, very special actually. But I look forward to working with you.
So I want to hit the key points that we worked with the subcommittee that'll get us up and running. And they're going to be the survey that we're going to do online, the focus groups and community forums, the leadership profile and the desired characteristics. And then at the end, I want to share a board portal that I'll talk to you that is something that HYA provides each trustee to ease the communication, separate all of the work related to this task from all of your other email, and it's a confidential. So we worked with the subcommittee. We discussed the various formats, the legal requirements. So one, the survey is going to be produced in English, Spanish, Chinese, Hindi, and Korean. So those are all languages that the district uses, so we will do the survey as well. I reviewed for the committee the pros and cons and the legal requirements on open-ended questions, and we have decided, and it was HYA's recommendation, not to include open-ended questions. They have to be translated when we get them at the end, which is time consuming, and they also fall under the Freedom of Information Act that they would all have to be released if there were a request, and you cannot control anything that's in there. So we discussed it, and HYA's normal recommendation to districts is it's not worth the trouble at that point. There's a lot of other ways to get that information. We will include a question, is there anybody that you would recommend for the position? That's a very simple one. So that's the survey. It will go out and we will disaggregate the data. HYA is a spinoff from a research company, ECRA, and we have done this survey many times. We settled on a recommendation of 6 groups to disaggregate it. One is an administrator, whether site or district level, community members, those are individuals who do not have children in school currently. The next one would be a parent or a guardian of a current student. Next would be, our listing says certificated/licensed staff. Because we're a national company, many states use the term licensed teacher, but we also have people with PPS credentials and other credentials. Next would be a classified staff, and finally a student section. So we would survey and the data would be broken out. You may say there's no board member category, but we remember in a survey we're trying to make the general trends, and we are going to interview each of the trustees, including the student trustee, as well as your suggestion last time, any candidate who qualifies for the ballot. So we will have that. So that will be the survey. We then are scheduling focus groups. You have a list. Is it possible to put up the focus groups? This is a working list. There are more focus groups than there are slots for focus group interviews. But we will group them. For example, we will group the service clubs, Rotary, Lions, Kiwanis, the Chamber, Tri-Valley Business Council, I'm forgetting the new name of it. We'll group like groups so that we can interview a large number of people. We've devoted 6 days, 3 days each of us that will do that, and I will work through that list. And when we come back to the questions, we want to see if there are any additions. One of the things the subcommittee came up, and I heard it tonight in several presentations, I was asked to include counselors, not just certificate employees, but counselors. So we will add that. Your suggestion was the candidate, so we will do that. When we finish all of those, we are also planning to do 3 community meetings. We had originally started them at the end of August and then realized there's back to school nights almost every night except Friday nights in August. And so we decided we're going to pull back and not do anything until after Labor Day. So we'll start that first week in September. We have some tentative dates for community forums. Unfortunately, the presidential debate dates keep getting changed, and we do not want to hold a community forum on a night where there's a debate, because we want to get everybody giving you input, because that is the key to it. I've also talked with Patrick, and we're going to look at, can we do a virtual community forum? And that way, we're looking at, ideally, and we'll look at sites, but my thinking is use the 3 middle schools as general areas. They're spread out across the city, and one night for virtual. We hope to get a large number of people. When that is finished, the two of us will pull all the data together from the surveys, and you received a sample of a survey report, but we will get the survey data and all the focus groups and community meetings, and we will develop for you a leadership profile that shows you what each group said. It's reported in such a way that nobody is identified by individual name, position, and nothing that could be, no comment can be tagged to a certain individual. So it's a confidential process. We will also develop a first draft of what we call the desired characteristics, which are, these are the personal and professional characteristics we desire in our next superintendent. Normally, at that stage, we sit down with the board and work through to finalize it, but we're only doing the engage phase. This will bring it to the board in October. You have an election in November, and then at some point between we present in October and the new board is seated, somewhere in that period, the Board of Trustees will decide how they're going to use it and next steps. So we're taking you all the way up to the leadership profile, desired characteristics. I've been working with Patrick and with Mary Jo on a number of items to get messaging out to the community, and that will continue. I will work with Patrick so that there will be updates on the website where you can get information, how you can access it. So that's the 30,000-foot view. We're excited to get going, and I'm pleased to be here. We're both very pleased to be here first day of school. That used to be my favorite day from the time I was a student till I was a superintendent. So we're excited to be working with Pleasanton. As most of you know, I was here 7 years ago when we did this process. So it's great to be back and hear some of the successes that have occurred, and in any district, some of the same challenges that I experienced when I left here in 2002. So, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Trustee Demetra?
2 pieces of feedback. First of all, I think the idea with counselors is very good. They're a good source of wisdom about our district. But if I may add another group to the, if I may refer another group to the focus groups, it's the Assistance League of Amador Valley. It's a nonprofit. I see there's not a lot of nonprofits here listed in the community partners, and Assistance League of Amador Valley is very active. They have several programs. They buy backpacks, they buy clothes, they buy textbooks, student materials, and they're very active in the Tri-Valley, particularly Pleasanton. In fact, they're headquartered in Pleasanton. So that's something I would really love to see the Assistance League of Amador Valley participating in this discussion over the new superintendent. My next question is, generally, how are you going to advertise these surveys and community meetings that you've been discussing?
Can I turn to Patrick?
Yeah, so we're fortunate to have a variety of options. We have our local media partners. We have our website. We have our communication platform, Parent Square, that we use. We're also a public agency on Nextdoor, so we can reach residents who might not be tied to the schools. We also utilize social media and I would love to hear any of your suggestions as well.
Will do. Thank you.
You want to do a TikTok? Dimitri, do you want to do a TikTok video? You know, get your Amador guys.
I don't know if I'm much of a TikTok person, but that's an idea, yeah. Or Instagram. Instagram's more like it, yeah.
Any more questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Trustee Maher?
Can I just follow up? You will see on the list that we plan to meet with students, preferably your position, ASB officers.
I can help you with
leadership
that.
Classes. So
Yeah.
I'll coordinate with you.
Yeah.
Trustee Walker?
I don't have any questions.
Trustee McCaughey?
Thank you. The process, I think, it will be very comprehensive. I do want to ask and extend off of the comment made by our student trustee. Clarifying question, why is the thought exchange not being considered, or is it being considered? The thought exchange has a survey tool that can be done in, like, I think 1,000 languages, and we have the thought exchange. So I'm wondering why we're not considering the thought exchange.
Okay, for the survey, usually we will survey in the languages that a district has to provide legally. So I understand you say go beyond that. Our research is coordinated across the country, so we will standardize data from across states, across districts with similar groups. The same questions get answered. So we use our own product to do that. And I'm not familiar with the thought exchange, so.
It was really more of a question for the district, because the district has the service purchased. So I just would hate to not be able to include community voices and input because of a language barrier. We're trying to, I understand your rationale of why you're highlighting only certain languages. So maybe my follow-up question is, how is the survey going to be communicated to the people who are taking it? Is it like a Google form? Is it electronic? Is it paper? How is it being collected?
Okay, let Alicia will talk about thought exchange. She's familiar with it.
So thought exchange is a different type of a survey. The survey that we have is, these are standards-based questions that are used with quite a bit of research behind it about...
So criterion reference, standardized?
And questions that have been determined to be significant for selecting leadership positions.
Okay.
They're not just random questions.
No, I understand that. It was really more of the language aspect.
Yeah, the language aspect. So these languages, I think there was a basis for selecting just these.
No, I heard that, but it was just a clarifying question. But so maybe expand on how is the survey going to be completed? Is it digital?
It can be digital. In fact, it is digital, and people can do it on a phone. You can do it on a laptop. You can do it on a desktop, any device. You can do it on an iPad. So it's very user-friendly, very easy to take. And it's not too long. That's the other thing, is people will finish them. And, if it's a long survey, sometimes people won't complete them. So I think we've had very great success, and the disaggregation of the data puts together a beautiful report that you can really make sense of. And you get a sense for each subgroup, each affinity group that's put together. They're disaggregated. You can say, well, what matters to the students? What matters to the classified staff? What matters to the parents? And it helps you kind of see similarities and differences across these groups, which I think is probably important insight for you.
And then my last question would be, how is the data captured from an analysis report? Like, what's the timing of getting these results back? Will be October?
No. We plan to, I'm thinking right now about timing of how we roll it out so that it gets out there. I would like to leave it open for 3 weeks. And if we close it on a Friday, Alicia and I should have the results by Wednesday or Thursday of the next week at the latest.
So end of September?
Definitely. And what we do is then we take the survey data that shows you the trends by group, and then we use the information for focus groups to write the leadership profile that we can say, and I'm not picking on IT, but I expect based on the discussion, I'm going to hear there are challenges with the Synergy system, okay? Well, but I'm also probably going to hear there are great successes with it. So we're going to show that data. And we combine the two. It takes us about 2 weeks to process all the written data from the focus groups and the community meetings based on the number of people that show up. Yeah.
Thank you. For the purpose of time, I'm going to pass it on to my fellow trustees.
So the focus groups really do identify themes. They emerge across groups that they're not in the same group, but typically with a district, there are themes that will emerge. And for example, technology might emerge as a major thing. And those aren't specifically asked in the questions. So each school district has its own context, and its own unique themes will be emerging. Trustee Brown?
No questions. I had the opportunity to ask them in the subcommittee. One small comment was I like the methodology, and to see the example output report based on the questions. I was able to click through as to how the data is assembled and understand the value of your own short survey question system in order to generate that report. I guess my only comment to Trustee McCaughey would be, like, based on the languages that you have, the 6 or so, it would be interesting just to look at the demographers report and just provide a level of confidence that that covers 97% of the known population or something like that, right?
And I think that was one of the questions of how we can make it available, but we're going to have to push over. And I will know, for example, at the end of the first week, we'll know we've had 1,000 responses, okay? So we want to hit 3,000, 5,000. We'll go out with another communication, and we'll target that. I've provided the district with a blurb that the principals can use on their back-to-school nights. Very short. Watch for these coming out, this timeline. So we're going to keep that communication going out.
So with a district of 13,500 students, what is a statistically significant sample size then?
I don't know because it's self-selected. I'd like to be up in the 25 to 3,000 range. And a lot of times I've run into districts, they're perfectly happy with what's going on, and so they don't even respond. And so that's our goal, is to encourage people to respond. I would like to see, ideally, I'd like to see a 30 to 40% response.
Okay, thank you. No other questions?
I think this is a great way to collect data, so I thank you for being so thorough. And we do have one public comment.
Charlie Jones.
Hello. Sorry, I'm tall. So yeah, my name is Charlie Jones. I am a product of this district, and the district I teach in, just this year, we had the joy of going through a superintendent search, which is a long, long, difficult process. My concern is how you communicate this and the buy-in you get from it is incredibly important, because if you don't have that, no one takes it seriously. We've all, for those of you who've been teachers on this board, you know that old saying of like, well, I was here before the last superintendent, I'll be here after this superintendent. Like, same with principals sometimes. If you don't support or you don't buy in, you are not going to follow through on the things that they want to implement. Because why would you go with an implementation of someone you're like, oh, they're only going to be here for a year or two? We've been there. So part of my concern with the survey that we're putting out is that there's no open-ended survey questions, and that really does deny true voice, because you are more or less pre-selecting what the responses are for these people to be. You're pre-selecting values that they're selecting from, but our values might not necessarily have the same words, the same meaning, or the same ideas. We don't always know what the values of other communities might have. They might believe in something that's not on that list necessarily, and we won't have that because you're picking from what's already there. My other part of that is if it's not open-ended, then how can you recommend people for the last question? Unless you already have pre-selected people, yet again, that you are having them choose from being recommended. So we need to go back and reevaluate. Are we actually saying this is an open-ended survey, or are we saying it really is not one? If it's not one, why do we have that question asking for recommendations? If it is, what are some other questions we might actually want to have that are open-ended, that go along with those focus questions? My other concern is the fact that only 6 focus groups is a small and concerning number for wanting community input and stakeholder buy-in, because again, without that grassroots buy-in, you're going to get a low turnout, a low response to this, because my opinion doesn't matter. You don't care. If you did, it would be easier for us to have that contact, to have that connection. You would be pushing this more, you'd be outreaching more. So as someone who just went through this process, and we had a struggle getting people to do these surveys and to go to these focus groups because they didn't trust the district to actually have that feeling of commitment at first. How you do this matters. If people really do feel like you care, they'll show up, they'll do it. And this is Pleasanton, we care. The parents and the community members, even when they don't have kids in the district, they care. So we'll do this. You just have to make sure they know it's worth their time. Thank you.
Well, just briefly to respond, the open-ended questions are they'll pose quite a number of challenges for the district because, as Jim mentioned, they're subject to FOIA. And people can put anything in an open-ended, and they can, the FOIA would not necessarily protect the privacy of some people, and there might be some things that are said that you really don't want to become public. So that is, very few districts do open-ended questions in something like this because it's really opens a can of worms. With regard to the questions on the survey, as I said earlier, those are research-based questions that really dig into what are essential leadership characteristics of successful superintendents. And that's a research-based model that they came from. But the forums are pretty open-ended, and the themes will emerge that aren't, as I said, not necessarily on the questions. So in the forums, we only ask 3 questions for each group. They're the same questions, but they go different ways. And so you will get themes that will emerge distinct and separate from the question. So you will find the context of the community and what's needed.
President Carrion, I have a question. So my question would be with the forums, to your point, that will be an opportunity for that open dialogue with the various educational partners. How is information from the forums collected?
So what we do is we basically record. We start, we explain why we're doing this, that it's a confidential process. We don't ask for names, and we take all of the comments. We ask them to, as much as possible, when we say, what are the strengths of the district, what are the challenges to the district, and so on, to try to use positive terms or constructive terms, not bashing, and then we will go through all of those, and we will look at all of the forums as well as all the focus groups, and what are the themes that emerged throughout all of these. And then how do those themes match up with those same concepts in the survey? So we look at that, and that's what we bring back to you in the profile. Then based on those overarching themes, we will use those to identify the characteristics that people are looking for. Okay? And So I don't know if that answers.
Yeah, it does. I was thinking about the point being stated just in general that provided an opportunity to get the input in multiple ways. Obviously, in a data mind, we're going to get information from more of a criterion controlled basis to the survey, but the reality is survey data input. We know that research shows in general input from surveys tend to be pretty low. So I think the 30 to 40% might be extremely optimistic. So the only comment I would make, and because we do have other agenda items tonight, I want to be conscientious of that, but just that if I would like to see this process fluid so that if the forums seem to be a great success or perhaps the attendance isn't as expected, that we provide additional opportunities for those forums to elicit more opportunities to get the input from our various community partners and other voices because that has been an identified request of that we're hearing echoing back and forth that we want to make sure that we're providing that access for opportunities for people to engage. So that would be my just overarching comment.
We're in total agreement with you, and it's part of the reason we decided to wait till after Labor Day to get started.
And if you could clarify the question about could you put a person's name? I think that is really an open-ended question.
That is a is there anybody you would suggest? And I will tell you how we use that. When we are doing the full search after the engage phase, we call those people, and I will. If Alicia's names were put down, I would call Alicia and say, Alicia, your name was submitted. Are you interested in applying for this position?
But the question is, people can actually write names in.
Right.
So that is open-ended, that part.
That part is open-ended. Okay. We don't get a lot, and what I find that we have to clarify, I've called a lot of people. They go, oh, I thought that's where I signed it. And so, they paid attention all the way down to the end. So we're going to promote this as heavily as we can because that's the entire goal of the engage phase. Provide the board with as much information to make the best decision.
We got to move on. You have one more comment.
I was going to comment on that, and that's fine. Let's just.
Sorry, I stole your
In the
thunder.
interest of time, let's move on. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to D, discussion action contracts with Exploring New Horizons and Web of Life 5th grade outdoor education.
Thank you, President Carrion. I'll introduce this item, and thank you, David Schrag, our Director of Elementary Education. So before the board tonight is our two contracts that we are here to have you review and seek approval. And these contracts support our outdoor education program for our 5th graders this year at our elementary schools. And so the two contracts are Exploring New Horizons and then Web of Life, Web of Life, and then you have the financial impact there on the agenda item. So for New Horizons, it's $290,185, and then Web of Life is $118,686.68. So we are here for any of your questions.
No, I know that this is a really time-honored and cherished kind of common experience that we want all of our 5th graders to enjoy. We know that we are really making sure that we are planning, and schools are working, teachers help to plan this and find times during the school year that work with their 5th grade classes. There's a variety of places that they go, as well as we try to make sure it's at least between 3 and 5 days for the experience. But again, with school schedules and other things, it's sometimes hard to make it completely and totally aligned. So a lot of times the camps and their availability has an impact on where schools can go. But I know teachers work very hard to provide a great outdoor education experience that goes along with our science curriculum, as well as the curriculum for the school year. It's obviously a bonding trip for our 5th graders. And a kind of a rite of passage in some ways for a lot of our 5th graders. So there is a range of places and days that they're going, but we are excited that all of our schools are booked and ready to go starting next month throughout the year. We're hoping we don't get any rain, but sometimes that does happen as well, but it does happen throughout the school year. But I'm free to take any questions.
Can you just tell us about, we got a lot of emails about this, and how was that resolved?
Yeah, so we know that we work in partnership with our parents, and we want to make sure we are getting input. And I know that principals are working hard to make sure they gather input. The teachers are the ones that are planning these trips and are coordinating that, and we know that we're really excited that we also have the ability to support teachers who stay to chaperone now. We have a stipend that we just recently were able to secure for our teachers to do that. So we're collecting that input from parents, and we want to make sure we use that, but we also want to make sure that our teachers have the ability to plan and coordinate that with what's happening with their class and their curriculum. We do have a timeline and a process for parents to provide that input so we can make informed decisions, but the teachers are the ones who provide this program for our fifth graders.
Trustee Brown, we're going this way now.
Sure. So following up on President Carrion's question, so Walnut Grove specifically, the parents there were very vocal, as was the APT president at the time, in response and in defense of the teachers, because as has been stated multiple times, this is the fifth grade outdoor ed program is phenomenal. My two girls have done it. Hopefully my son will do it next year. But currently it's still scheduled for the same destination as previously.
It is, and I think what we're doing is doing more research this year, and I know the teachers at Walnut Grove, for example, are doing some exploration of other options, but I think for this year it is secure just because we have to, in advance, book those trips. But we want to make sure that we know all our options, and the Walnut Grove's team and Gigi, who's actually here, just to make sure that we know all of those things and get all the input we can to make sure we make an informed decision. So yes, we're looking at other options. I think again, the idea is to make sure that there's a really rich experience. I think we're less concerned about how far we actually drive to that experience, but again, we think it's more about does it align with the fifth grade curriculum of science? Does it provide like the outdoor environment that we want kids to, have those experiences together? But yes, we're doing our due diligence on the research around all the possible options. There's other factors involved. Again, time of year. There's a lot of times we want to go in the springtime when it's nice, but there's also lots of testing and other things that we are trying to balance. So
and one thing that, as part of the contract settlement that we did last year, the teachers that are going to these will be getting the stipend, whereas in prior years they did not. And I know, like a lot of the teachers, have to arrange childcare for their own kids in order to go to these programs, and they're getting up late at night because someone's crying, or
fifth grade kids first time away. There's going to be some nighttime.
So it's a leading question, but I want to acknowledge, because I am pleased that the staff, the board, the teachers union agreed on that, because I think it's fundamental table stakes. It's sort of it's a form of compensation for the time, but there's also the heart and soul that the teachers put into these things, and that's why I want to make sure that this year, when we talk about Walnut Grove, that we're having that constructive dialogue and setting it up correctly with the parents, that, hey, this is what the teachers are volunteering to do, and you can participate or not participate, et cetera. So anyway, I'm leading the witness here, but thank you very much.
Okay, Trustee McCaughey.
So thank you for the information. I wholeheartedly support these programs. As my children two of my three children had an opportunity to attend these. Unfortunately, one of my children was not because of COVID. But my oldest son has amazing memories from Walnut Grove. And I just would like to say kudos in regards to these field trips are paramount, and it does take a joint effort, not only from the teachers, the planning, the administration, the budget, because a lot of times it has to be supported with donations from the families. I know when my oldest son went, it was based upon parent volunteers with the teachers to, go to these destination places. My children's father was able to go, and that was his big thing, to take off and, survive with fifth graders. So I just would like to kind of echo what the trustees have already stated, and, being honest here and saying, okay, lessons learned, how to improve it moving forward, because I think at the end of the day, I think the ultimate concern from the parents' perspective was, I think they didn't have a sense of feeling heard, and I don't think that that's necessarily was the case or not, but it's really about how can we work together moving forward and really get the support from everyone, because, I think we have made strides, but there are other situations where children don't have an opportunity to do these field trips. I'd like to say, hey, can we get funding for the ninth graders? Because most ninth graders did not do their fifth grade outdoor ed or wherever they went because of the pandemic. So just, I don't want to be repetitive, but I would like to say kudos to everyone working together moving forward. Obviously, that's why we're celebrating and putting these contracts together so that every child in fifth grade can benefit with the collaboration from the teachers, the students, and also the parents too. So thank you.
Trustee Walker?
I just want to say that outdoor education was the highlight of all three of my children's fifth grade year, and thankfully I got to attend each one of their field trips to Pigeon Point. And it was the highlight of most fifth graders. Some of them had never even been to the ocean, so it was a wonderful time. And I'm glad that we're going to, that we're giving our teachers stipends. That's fantastic, because they do put a lot of time and effort planning these trips, and so kudos to that. And then I'm like to understand we're reevaluating for next year. Maybe next year Walnut Grove will consider.
We're going to make sure we kind of explore what's out there and see what, and again, continue to ask for parent input.
Okay, just because we got a lot of emails, I just want to reiterate that we're reevaluating. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
Trustee Maher?
Just echo what my fellow trustees have been talking about. And then today, visiting Walnut Grove, I realize now that they're really going to do an in-depth look at the different camps, because some camps that we may think are okay are not okay because of poor facilities, not upkeep, and so forth. So I'm glad they're going to look at it. I hope they look out past these two that are here. I don't know how many they're going to look at, but I would hope that they spread the horizon.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trustee Dimitri? Oh, and public comment. Okay. Yeah, sorry, got distracted.
Yeah, I think Pleasanton is very lucky to have this program, and I'm privileged to experience it several years ago. I don't remember how long ago. But I can testify to the fact that it's very fun, and it's sort of life-changing to a fifth grader in the 10 years that you've lived, because to many people, it's the first time you've been away from home. It's the first time you're, sleeping with away from your parents. It's maturing.
Thank you.
And if a teacher, like in fifth grade, doesn't want to go, they could maybe have another teacher go in
Absolutely. The stipend will actually help with that too, with other staff members on campus who may want to join.
Okay,
We'd
great.
always love to offer that to teachers first, because it is something that's exciting for them with their fifth grade class. But with that stipend, it provides a lot more flexibility for us to go other places.
Okay, and we have a public comment.
Charlie Jones.
Charlie Jones from Pleasanton still for the last time tonight. But I just wanted to, I wanted to thank both the board and the district for continuing with this program. I did it in fifth grade, and it was a really fun experience, and it was great. But also, I think we did ours in the Redwoods, which kind of tells you how far back that was. But what I remembered, too, was, like you said, this was one of the first times away from our parents for a lot of us. Some definitely took it better than others. I think it gave my parents a vacation because I was described as a child with high energy by my teachers because of ADHD. But the other thing, too, is we don't always see we see the immediate benefits from it, like the climate crisis is huge, and being able to do science out in nature and more hands-on is incredibly important. But there's also dividends that come much later that we as teachers don't always get to see right away, or as a district. One of my friends, she did that trip with us, and that really inspired her love of science, and it created a core memory for her of really liking biology, nature, biodomes, things like that. And that stayed with her through middle and high school, and she went on to college to do biology. And she now teaches bilingual earth science and bilingual biology to newcomers and immigrant students at the school that I teach at. So these programs are important. We don't always see it right away, but I'm glad that we're doing things like this because that helps inspire people to give back in ways that we don't always expect. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the contracts as written for New Horizons and Pueblo Life 5th grade outdoor ed.
I second.
Trustee, I can't say your last name yet. Dimitri?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Okay, the motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we're going to do the public hearing and then we're going to take a break. So public hearing, discussion, action, adopt the 2024 school facility fee justification report, residential, commercial, industrial projects, and resolution number 2024 to increase level I developer fees. And I think I'm going to open up the hearing. And who is speaking?
I am speaking. The Ed Code 17620 and Government Code 65995 allows school districts to impose developer fees to mitigate the impact of development for the schools. And so the state sets the level 1 developer fees at the state allocation board, and they evaluate that every 2 years and update it. And so last year, the state allocation board took action and increased the level 1 for residential homes from $4.79 to $5.17, and for commercial from 78 cents to 84 cents per square foot. In order for PUSC to take advantage of it, we had to complete a developer fee report, which we have provided, and we followed the public hearing process so that the developers in the community knew in advance we were changing those rates. And now we're bringing that for formal board action. After the board approves this, then the new fees go in effect 60 days from this action. And then a reminder is these fees are imposed on any new development, new construction, housing, and different types of home expansion and units. And then they're utilized, they go to a special fund that are used for when we build new classroom spaces and new schools. And so in particular, with the work that's going to happen under the housing element plan, we are going to see significant new housing. For example, the Kiewit project that is going forward, that's bringing, I bet, 300 to 400 homes in that area. And so those dollars, as they're collected, we can utilize them when we go needing to expand our facilities and accommodate that. So with that, the recommendation is the Board of Trustees adopt the 2024 school facility fee justification report and resolution 2024-2025.05 to increase our developer fees to the rates justified therein.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Okay, Justin.
All right. Two main questions. One is what is the over the next 5 years or 3 years or whatever? What do you, based on the anticipated development per the city, what is the incremental revenue that we would expect in this fund over the next 3 or 5 year period as a result of this change tonight?
So as a result of the change, I mean, the change is, from $4.79 to $5.17. I mean, it's, it will increase it. Maybe the better way to say it, how much do we expect to bring in the next, I would say, 5 to 6 years? A quick back of the envelope calculation, I just did it today, is the city's housing plan is to develop 6,000 units. We know 6,000 is not going to be built, but let's say 2,000 units are built. If they average around 1,750 square foot at that $5.17, for residential building, that's close to $20 million. So it's over time, it's significant dollars that will go towards our ability to provide classroom space for our students.
Okay, so to answer my question, it's basically 7% of 20 million is the delta.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, every 2 years they do it. You don't want to leave any dollar on the table, so that's why we bring the resolution to be able to maximize what the state allows. Okay. It isn't it isn't capturing the full cost. It's what the state allows under that level 1.
Yeah. It's just when you look at it, it's 479 to 517. You think, what's the big deal? But it equates to about 1.4 million in incremental. The last question I had is the report that's attached, item 1 of the district's justification. The district's justification for collecting fees on future residential and commercial industrial development is based on the following facts and projections. Item 1, the district's current enrollment is larger than its pupil capacity. The district, therefore, does not have sufficient capacity to house students generated by future development. These students will require the district to acquire new school facilities. Based on the demographer's report that we review, I thought that if you were to add up the capacity that's stated for each of the schools, if you take all the elementary schools in aggregate, and then you take all the middle schools in aggregate and all the high schools in aggregate, our current enrollment is not larger than our school capacity. So how can we defend that statement or sign off on that statement?
So the way the justification report looks at our capacity is different than when we're looking. We're looking at it, how many classroom spaces do we have that can accommodate in a classroom? When they're looking at it, they look at our standard loading. They also discount certain types of building types. So, for example, anything that was portable based doesn't get counted. Anything that is below the standard classroom size, we have classroom spaces that are below standard that we're using as classrooms, or we have portable classrooms, they're discounted. And so when you look at it from that perspective, then we are our capacity isn't met. And so they're looking at it from their justification, which is different than when we're looking at our capacity in terms of, let's say, for example, at Vintage Hills. At Vintage Hills, we have about, I can't remember, 8 or 9 classroom portals. I was looking to see if Aaron is there. They don't get counted in the Vintage Hills calculations. They get deducted. So the math is a little bit different when you go through the report.
Okay, so the staff has done that math, and you stand behind that statement?
Yes.
Before we as a board?
Yes.
Sign on the line?
We've gone through it, and so has our attorney has gone through it as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Trustee McCoskey.
So my question echoes from Trustee Brown's on the developer fee analysis projection of our revenue. I just would echo, and I know we've received reports from time to time on what we're getting for the developer fees, but I know it has come up in terms of various conversations with, our financial reports. So I guess my ask would be, in addition to the standard time that you report that, any other ways that we can get updates on the developer fees would be really, really helpful. But other than that, I think we're good to go. Because did you say I thought it had been quite a while since we had the developer fees change. You're saying it was only 2 years ago that the rate increased? Because I thought it was longer than that.
No, we brought the same justification report 2 years ago when the state allocation
Increased it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
They reevaluate every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
Yeah, based on construction costs, so on and so forth.
Trustee Walker.
Thank you.
Trustee Brown asked my question, so thank you, Trustee Brown. I'm good. Thank you, Ahmad.
Trustee Maher. Okay. Trustee Philippe.
Like traditionally, anytime the SAB raises the rate, does the board, follow that rate?
So yes, it's staff's job to bring that, and then if we weren't bringing the new rates, we wouldn't be doing our job because the district should take full advantage of the rates that are allowable. So yes, since I've been here, every 2 years that the SAB has increased it, I've brought it to the board.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the 2024 school facility fee justification report for residential, commercial, and industrial projects, resolution number 2024-2025.04, to increase level 1 developer fees.
Do you have a second?
I second.
Yeah, are we going to end the public hearing first? Oh, I thought we did it after. I'll end the public hearing now, and then we vote?
Well, are there any public speakers?
No, there are not.
Okay.
So what do you think, Lenita? When am I supposed to end the hearing? Oh, after discussion? Okay, I ended the public hearing. I'm sorry for my mistake. Okay, now we're voting.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, the motion passes 6-0. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and do, hopefully, speed through that. Okay, discussion, action, interfund borrowing. Thank you.
Yes, I'll begin again. So this is an annual resolution we bring to the board that allows the district to do interfund borrowing for cash flow purposes between particular funds through the year, and any borrowing that we do needs to be repaid to the different funds. And so an example could be we borrow from there's the listed funds for the general fund or vice versa to bridge cash flow issues. And so we rarely use it, but it's there on particular times and needs during the year that we may have for cash flow purposes. Our Executive Director of Fiscal Services, Ann Wells, is available to answer any questions as well.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, Trustee McCoshy.
So my one question, just to reiterate for the benefit of the public, you said this is a standard item that comes to the board annually?
Correct.
Okay. So then my follow-up question would be, if it has to be utilized, will the board be notified of a transaction, or this approval kind of defaults that?
This approval authorizes staff to be able to make those transfers, but we can still inform the board if those, if there's a cash flow purpose that we need to do interfund borrowing. I think we've done it in the past. For example, we during the COVID crisis, I think there was some support that our Fund 63 needed, and so we may have done some transfers there during that period, and I think we informed the board of that.
Okay, great. If it's been done in the practice, I think that would be great, just to keep it in the forefront for the trustees. So anyway, thank you. That's all my questions.
Any other questions?
I'll just half question, half statement. This motion or resolution becomes more critical as we get closer to the 3% threshold reserves, correct?
Correct. So for the general fund, when you have a larger reserve balance, you can that reserve balance helps with cash flow needs, because in any particular month, you may be getting your revenues in the following month. You may be short just for a period of weeks, and so the interfund borrowing will help bridge those if we run into those issues. But yes, as your reserve tightens, your cash is king and becomes really critical, and that's something that we're now looking a lot closer at than probably, with a 10% reserve you wouldn't really worry about.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-2025.03 for interfund borrowing.
Second.
I vote yes.
Thank you. Okay, the motion passes 6-0. We're on discussion, action, purchasing cooperative bid awards, CNS. Thank you for waiting.
Sarah Kamichik will present this item.
Great. So today I'm here to explain some contracts that we are a part of under a co-op called the Action Purchasing Co-op. The Action Purchasing Co-op consists of 12 school districts in the area, including surrounding districts such as Dublin, Livermore, Castro Valley, and San Leandro. The benefit of working with so many districts is that it gives us buying power. All the products you see listed under these contracts today does not necessarily mean that Pleasanton is buying every item, but that someone within the 12 districts requested competitive pricing for this item. On top of that, if we are collectively interested in purchasing the same product, the vendor will lower the price because of the amount of product we are promising to buy from said vendor. A great example of this comes from our dairy bid, where collectively the 12 districts will use over 3 million cartons of milk. Since milk is a required item in child nutrition, this allows us to band together for competitive pricing, which in turn gets us a lower price. Every year we elect a lead district. This year we elected New Haven Unified to take on this task. The lead district is in charge of compiling all of our information, which products we are interested in, publicly posting the information online, and conducting what is called formal bidding since these contracts are so large. As you can see, our district spends about $1 million between all of these vendors annually. Our co-op meets multiple times throughout the year to discuss which vendors we are selecting for the following school year. This is based on things such as pricing, lead times, brands or equivalent brands of product, amongst other things. Once this evaluation is completed, we award vendors a category. Today I have the following contracts that we awarded through this co-op. We have Gold Star and Danielson for commodities and grocery products, Crystal Creamery for dairy, Imperial Dade for paper products, General Produce for fresh produce, and Bimbo Bakeries for fresh bread. And I also did want to note that we do still purchase other products from other vendors for our programs. However, these contracts are much smaller and do not go through the formal bidding process.
Well, I love that it's a fixed price. It's very smart. You don't have to worry about it going up and down. So any questions? Okay.
I just had a small question. Just curious in terms of why we purchase so many more sort of 1% versus the whole milk.
We are not allowed to serve whole milk as a individual carton, so whole milk is typically used in a diluted, scratch-cooked item where the saturated fat becomes compliant with our program.
And does the state require you to do 1% or can you do 2%?
Yeah, so we are only allowed to do non-fat flavored milk or 1% non-flavored.
Okay, but I thought you did chocolate milk as well.
Yeah, so that's non-fat flavored milk.
Okay, but that's high sugar though, right?
It's, I believe, 2 grams higher than 1% milk.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
It's not
Lactose
relevant to the
is-
item, so I'll stop my question.
no
So it
worries.
was just, it piqued my interest. I apologize for getting
Lact-
off topic.
and just to kind of explain that too, lactose is a natural sugar found in milk, so there is still, I believe, about 11 grams of sugar naturally in milk.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
Can I motion?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yes.
I motion to approve the purchasing cooperative bid awards by CNS.
Nice. Good.
Second.
I seconded.
Okay. And your vote?
Yes.
Excellent. The motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Discussion action Omnia agreement for Home Depot Pro for custodial supplies.
We'll have our coordinator of purchasing, Rochelle Mercado, introduce this item.
Good evening. Thank you. Tonight I bring the Home Depot agreement utilizing the Omnia cooperative agreement. So POSD has historically purchased a lot of our custodial supplies from Home Depot and various other vendors. We are transitioning into just-in-time delivery, allowing our custodial supplies to now be delivered directly to the site instead of being processed through our warehouse. So a part of this, we kind of collectively looked at our total custodial costs, and that's where we came up with a figure for the $350,000. With Home Depot utilizing the direct delivery, it is cost saving us in other ways. And utilizing the Omnia cooperative agreement, it allows us to leverage that buying power with multiple agencies. So tonight I am here seeking the approval to use the Omnia contract.
Any questions? I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Omnia agreement for Home Depot Pro for custodial supplies. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut you off? I apologize.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 6-0. Great.
Thank you.
I, discussion, action, change order for DRYCO RFP 2021-2022.
Yes, I'll cover this one. If there's any questions, our Executive Director of Operations is also here. This project was to repair, seal, and stripe asphalts at Hearst, Fairlands, and Valley View. This was at actually last summer's project. However, due to a variety of factors, there were several change orders that we had to work through with the contractor. We were finally able to do that after a long period. And so we're bringing the total change orders for that project was $27,250 for a total project cost of $211,365. So we're asking the board to approve this change order number 1 for the project 2021-22.18.
Any questions?
Just a statement. Thank you very much for being very detailed and saying that it's coming from the 8150 funding source. I appreciate that.
Anyone else? Okay. Looking for a motion?
I motion that we approve the change order number 1 for DRYCO for RFP 2021-22.18.
I'll second.
Trustee, is it Demetria? I'm trying to pronounce that last name correctly, and I'm...
Yes, it's yes to the vote, and my last name is Dimitriev.
Dimitriev.
Yeah,
Dimitriev.
That's good.
Okay. Somebody hasn't voted. Oh, thank you. Okay, the motion passes 6-0. Okay, J, discussion action resolution number 2024-2025, naming district representatives and authorizing the participation in state allocation board administrative programs.
Yes. So this one, our Executive Director, Aaron Kell of Facilities and Construction, will introduce this item.
Great, thank you. So I know we're tired. We'll make it quick and brief. So this is a standard item. We have to file this resolution with the state. What it does is it tells the state that we're interested in pursuing state matching dollars for our construction modernization projects. And it also changes some of our signatories because of retirements and job changes. So a couple of fun facts on state funding. In 2024, we expect to get $1.5 million from the state for our construction projects. And then in 2025, we expect to get another $4 million. So $5.5 million total between now and the end of 2025. And then if a state bond passes this year, we're eligible for another probably $11 to $12 million in the next couple of years. So this is an important document. So with that, I'll open it to any questions.
Excellent. Any questions? Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
I motion that we approve resolution number 2024-2025.01, naming district representatives and authorizing the participation in state allocation board administrative programs.
I'll second.
Okay, trustee.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 6-0. Did we add his name to that? I didn't see that.
I'm adding his name for you to check on the
Okay, thanks. But I'm talking about the resolution form.
Yes,
Okay.
all of them.
Okay.
They have all.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, next one, item K. Discussion, action, resolution number 2024-2025 to sole source specific products for construction projects.
Yeah. Okay. So this item allows us, the staff, to sole source, as it says, specific construction items for the purposes of our future projects. And these are very limited. They include door hardware, they include flooring, irrigation controllers, HVAC controllers, and fire alarm control panels. And the reason that we do this is because there's a few really good reasons. One is it ensures compatibility across all the district's properties and systems. So we have one type of fire alarm control panel across all the district, and it allows for ease of maintenance, allows simplified maintenance contracts, fewer parts to be stocked, things like that. It also helps to reduce with training requirements, so it's a little bit less complicated for the operations folks to maintain. And then, like I said earlier, it helps us maintain fewer spare parts and pieces. But we do try to target this to the absolute minimum number of products that we need to be successful with our projects. So with that, any questions?
Any questions?
Nope. That's why Southwest has the same plane.
What?
Well, they're well known in the industry. One of the reasons Southwest was able to lower their costs was because they had the same plane. And so that it reduced their training costs for all their pilots, reduced their maintenance costs, the number of parts they got to stock. This is the same thing, but down in the weeds of cabinet locks, door locks, toilets, stuff like that.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
But now they're doing assigned seats.
Oh, I know. Okay, we're digressing. Do we have a motion?
Since I distracted the audience, I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-2025.02 to sole source specific products for construction projects.
I second.
Trustee Dimitrioff.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 6-0. Okay, L, you're still here.
I'm going to close it tonight.
You're the closer.
I'm the closer.
Discussion action agreement with King Consulting for school facility funding, eligibility, and submission for state funding.
All right, so a minute ago we talked about all the amazing funds that are available to the district. Well, those funds, we have to go through an application process, and we have to affirm our eligibility and a few other things. And that's really what King Consulting helps us with. So it's a pretty straightforward contract. They bill on time and materials. We already have a contract in place for Measure I-1. They've helped us secure quite a bit of funding, and this contract will help us with the Measure I projects. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Any questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll motion to approve agreement with King Consulting for school facility funding, eligibility, and submission for state funding.
I second.
I vote yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 6-0. And M, discussion action architectural agreement with HKIT Architects for Kids Club new portable projects at Fairlands.
All right, so the Fairlands Kids Club is at capacity right now, so they have quite a bit of a waiting list, and we partnered with the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program to help minimize that waiting list. And so by approving this contract, you set forth the process for us to build an addition to the Kids Club compound at the Fairlands campus. It will allow for the addition of 85 additional students within the Kids Club and help to generate about $528,000 a year for the district. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Any questions?
I had a question about this.
Mm-hmm.
So the building is considered to be permanent, but it's built as a portable. And I'm just wondering, usually portables associated with temporary classes because there's not enough classrooms, and they're transitionary. So why is it that we're building a permanent portable and not like an actual building?
It helps with cash flow. So we match the cost of construction against the incoming dollars. So as I mentioned, we get $528,000 per year in revenue, give or take, and that portable has a monthly cost to it. If we went with what's called a stick frame building, so constructed in place, there would be a massive upfront cost that we would have to finance and then pay that back with the annual revenues on the back end.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have a question, just to recognize the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, and kudos for having this happen. I mean, I think it's important just to reiterate that the benefit of the dollars for that is for the before and after school support for our students, extended learning, and it's a general practice that a lot of various funding programs with the state and federally are supporting, and so I'm really excited to see that this is being funneled through those dollars and not the general fund, so just kudos. So thank you.
When do you anticipate the building being operational?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're in the very, very early stages of construction right now. My guess is probably 14 months or so, give or take. It's going to depend on the order of magnitude of construction that goes into it. But it usually takes a few months on the front end, maybe 4 or 5 months for design, a few months for DSA approval, and then it'll take time for the construction on the back end.
Have we notified the parents yet there that are on the waiting list?
I can't speak to them, but we have been partnering with the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program staff along with the site staff. So they're very familiar with this program. How they've communicated that out, I can't speak to at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do have one question. Is it going to be, the portable going to be near where the kids club is right now?
Yeah, it's on the, I think, the southwest corner of the Fairlands property.
The southwest corner? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I ask an off-the-wall question?
The more off the wall, the better.
All right.
Yeah.
Could you use the 10th elementary school funds for this?
So you're talking about the $35 million in Measure I-1. So we are working on the analysis at the Alisal Elementary School, and we'll be bringing back that to the board at looking at how those funds can be utilized for the district's needs. I think this is specific to the Kids Club program. There are ELOP dollars a district can access for that. And it's a fairly quick project. I think, Aaron, I'm hoping that for next year when we open the school year that this portable will be in place and we can expand. We'll defer the discussion on that $35 million for the next couple months.
Good answer. Thank you.
I love Kids Club, and I love any opportunity to expand, so I think this is amazing. So thank you, and I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay, all those. Trustee?
I didn't realize we were voting. I vote yes.
Okay, thank you. The motion passes 6-0. So now we are going on to board reports and requests. Board members may report on meetings they have attended, updates on the community, and any requests. Would you like to start, Trustee Dimitra? Oh, or do you want to come back to you?
I can start. There's
Okay.
not much for me to report. First day of school went really well. Besides the scheduling issues for a lot of people, I wasn't affected, thankfully. It went really smoothly. Everybody was happy. Lunches were great. Administration was great. Everybody was happy. Teachers were happy. Students were happy to see each other. So yeah, I think it's a success.
Thank you. Trustee Maher?
No, it's a quick summer. Visits today to the school was a highlight, certainly, and the kindergarten classes at Fairlands and the TK classes. We're off to a good start, so it was great.
Trustee Walker?
Not much to report, although I very much enjoyed my visits to Amador and Alisal. Lots of happy teachers and lots of happy kids, and I enjoyed immensely seeing Amador. Go Dons.
Trustee McCaughey?
So just to echo the fellow trustees, it was great to have the opportunity to visit several of the schools today and actually to also collaborate with other trustees and superintendent and staff for a little lunch midday. So that was really nice just to collaborate and have some conversations. My only board request would be, actually with New Beginnings, the kickoff of the new school year, I would love to bring up an opportunity for a governance meeting and talking about perhaps some additional protocols that we can adopt and modify. One example would be, I really like how we do the city district liaison committee agendas, a little more collaborative by getting the trustees' input for setting those committee agendas, and I think that that would be a practice that I'd love to discuss with the board for some of our other committee meetings, and just to have a conversation with some other protocols we want to tweak and adjust with the new school year, and just team building opportunities, since we did have a 6-week break, 4 to 6 week break with the board, and we have a new student board trustee, and we are having some tough conversations with the deficit funding. challenges, issues, even though we do have an election and the board will be evolving, but I think that would be a great thing to consider in the next upcoming meeting or two.
You.
The only meeting I really attended in the summer was on the subcommittee around this superintendent criteria. Walked the kids up to the gates and they disappeared. We're happy going in and even happier coming out, and they felt like $1 million, and that's really a credit to the teachers and everything they do to get ready for day one. So that's it.
So I did attend the same meeting with Justin on superintendent search. I went to back to school night for Donlin. They did a great job, and they had a carnival. I went to the teacher in-service day, and it was amazing. I loved seeing the counselors. They have this wonderful program. It's a virtual office. So when a kid goes to the office and they're feeling upset, they can click on a button about how they're feeling. It's amazing. And I, shout out to Tracy Zuldorf, who's getting it into all the schools. It's amazing. And then there was one on AI and how to spend Proposition 28 money. And Jenny Ricard did a great program too. That was great. And I love the school day visits. They were amazing. Thank you. Kudos to all the staff. Everything looks amazing. And it was great. So our next board meeting is August 22nd, 2024. And this is officially over. Good night.